Chapter 30:17. Frigga was just comforting her. But Go-C felt that she couldn't be happy. Limit. Not many people in the world could touch it. Most people would be stuck halfway through their leveling. Also, how many people could actually get stronger as they got older? When a normal cultivator reached a certain age, all aspects would start to decline severely. Only a few old monsters could do it. The older they got, the stronger they got. So, Go-C didn't have any hope of reaching the limit in 100 years. Little Jerlin and little Larissa would reach their limit in 10 years. No, 20 years to be exact. They'd only be in their early 20s. That was the best age. But how long would Go-C need? 100 years. At her current age, 120 years. Would he be able to live for that long? Even if she could, she'd probably be in a decline. Xiaohe and Carrie had already passed the trial that Chun Zhao had left for them. But it wasn't the end of their suffering. It was just the beginning. The difficulty wasn't up to Chun Zhao's will. It was up to him to strengthen or weaken it. So, for Xiaohe and Carrie, it was far from passing. They'd gone from the initial resistance to numbness, and now they were used to it. Just like the saying, when you can't fight back, every night, Chun Zhao would have someone from the supernatural organization come and watch them. They didn't want to die in the trial. This wasn't the Tower of Trials where they could revive on the spot. That was Chun Zhao's ability. If they died, they would really die. Actually, they'd been trapped in the trial for almost a month. Apart from not being able to move freely, it didn't affect their daily lives. They could even go online. Moreover, they'd even called the police in the first few days. They hoped that the police could save them. Clearly, they'd overestimated the LAPD. The police walked around the community and said that they'd sue them for making a false alarm. Now, they'd learned their lesson and stopped resisting. There was no point in resisting. Chun Zhao had only taught them one thing during this time. The fist was the root of everything. Right now, they had to risk their lives just to survive in this trial ground. It was unrealistic to fight Chun Zhao head-on. After an arduous night of fighting, Carrie and Xiaohe dragged their weary bodies home. Xiaohe, help me prepare breakfast. I don't want to move anymore. Carrie felt as though her body was about to fall apart. He slumped on the sofa like a corpse. She turned on the television, but she was too lazy to even lift her eyelids. The television was broadcasting the news. Suddenly, Carrie seemed to hear something. She jumped up and stared at the television screen with wide eyes. Xiaohe, come quickly. Xiaohe walked out slowly, holding a glass of milk. What is it? Look at the news. According to the European police, a group of people who call themselves the New Era have recently appeared. They claim that myths will descend upon the world again. They will restart the ritual and find the gods of the past. They're also requesting the government to recognize their legitimacy. However, at present, all the countries in Europe have identified the New Era as a cult and have put several leaders of the organization on the wanted list. They're the leader, Arona, the deputy leader, Bayan, and the guardian elder. Xiaohe looked at the news listlessly and asked, "What's wrong? What does this cult have to do with you?" "My vice sect master, Bayan, used to be a hoodlum on our street. So what? It's not surprising that someone like him started a cult. But he used to be an ordinary person. Maybe he's a liar, or maybe you didn't see through him," Xiaohe said disapprovingly. "I thought you had something to make such a fuss about." Actually, when Carrie said that they knew each other, it was more than just knowing each other. Bayan was her adoptive father, and she had learned all her thieving skills from him. As for whether Bayan really knew magic, she would never believe it. She knew Bayan too well. When Bayan was young, he was a successful entrepreneur. He had adopted Carrie when she was 10 years old. However, in less than a year, Bayan suddenly went bankrupt, because Bayan could no longer provide Carrie with the money she needed. So, Carrie returned to the orphanage. However, the connection between Carrie and Bayan was not broken. Then, he began to mingle in the streets. If he had any magic skills at that time, he would not have to steal to earn some money and buy some insignificant gift for Carrie. Thinking back to the last time they met, it was already half a year ago, because Bayan committed theft and was sentenced to half a year in prison. But Carrie did not expect to see Bayan again on the TV news, and he had actually become a high-ranking member of a cult. Carrie could not help but worry about her adoptive father. Bayan might not be rich, but he was definitely a responsible father. At least in Carrie's eyes, Bayan was worthy of her calling him father. Seeing this news, Carrie could not help but worry about Bayan. All the tiredness and sleepiness disappeared at this moment. There was only worry for Bayan. What's your relationship with that deputy leader, Bayan? He noticed the change in Carrie's expression. I know him, but I'm not familiar with him, Carrie replied casually. This answer could protect herself and Bayan. It was not that she did not trust Xiaohe. It was that Carrie had been in the streets since she was a child. She knew that some bad things started from an unintentional slip of the tongue. Carrie was in a dilemma. On one hand, she could not even protect herself. She could not even control her own freedom. Moreover, she had to save that unreliable adoptive father. But she couldn't just ignore it. If you really have a problem, you can call Mr. Chun. Actually, Xiao had already thought through some problems recently. Chun Zhao seemed to be torturing them. In fact, he was training them. Although they were living a life of ecstasy here, the increase in their strength was real. Only Carrie was still in the dark about it. Or rather, it was the difference in Eastern and Western thinking. Carrie could only feel Chun Zhao's evil intentions. What's the use of finding him? Carrie did not want to contact Chun Zhao. At least, we need his permission to leave here. Carrie was like a deflated balloon. Yes, without Chun Zhao's permission, they could not even leave here. Or we have the ability to completely clear this place. We don't even know the upper limit of the difficulty. How do we clear it? Chapter 30:18. Chun, I'm going back to Europe. 23rd Blood Mary came to bid Chun Zhao farewell. Really? So soon? Chun Zhao had thought that 23rd Blood Mary would need more time. He didn't expect her to go back so soon. Yes, it's chaotic in Europe. A few groups have realized the arrival of the spiritual chi tide. They're eager to open up the spiritual world. Chun Zhao remained silent. Everyone had their own thoughts. Chun Zhao was the type that didn't support or object. However, Chun Zhao's job was to kill this idea in the cradle. After all, most people and the government didn't need a new era. They needed to maintain the current state. How's the progress with your divine kingdom? It's completed. Now, there are just some details to deal with. A smile appeared on 23rd Blood Mary's face. Her trip to Los Angeles had come to a successful end. From now on, she didn't need to worry about her lifespan anymore. She'd solved the biggest crisis. Now she was a god, a true god. Do you want to try my divine kingdom? Sure. A patch of grayish-white suddenly spread across the sky. As the grayish-white spread, the environment around Chun Zhao and 23rd Blood Mary also changed. As the grayish-white formed a circle, Chun Zhao's senses completely lost contact with the outside world. There were only snow-covered mountains and piercingly cold winds. Is this your divine kingdom? Suddenly, Chun Zhao felt the air become extremely heavy. 23rd Blood Mary's divine power was air. She could change the weight of the air. At the same time, she could control the temperature and humidity. How can your divine kingdom attack? If it's just what I feel now, it probably won't pose any threat to me. Chun Zhao wasn't being arrogant. He was just stating a fact. The change in the environment only caused some trouble for Chun Zhao. It didn't even affect Chun Zhao's combat ability. I can increase the weight of the air to an unimaginable level, so the other materials in the divine kingdom will rise and then fall. It's similar to your meteorite. Chun Zhao's eyes brightened. This is amazing, he said sincerely. I know this isn't enough for you. Chun Zhao shrugged. It couldn't be helped. They were a whole realm apart now. He could only say that it wouldn't be easy for him to win against the 23rd Blood Mary. But it was impossible to lose. Chun Zhao stood still. Even the 23rd Blood Mary might not be able to bite him. Chun Zhao was an enhancer. His physical strength and defense had reached the extreme. This was Chun Zhao's greatest advantage. In order to defeat Chun Zhao, he first had to break through his defense. After that, he would need more power to deal damage to Chun Zhao. But that in itself was impossible. How big is your divine kingdom? About the same size as California. That big? Chun Zhao gasped. Because I don't lack materials. Chun Zhao was speechless. Yes, the 23rd Blood Mary had collected so many fragments of the divine kingdom. There was no need to worry about not having enough materials. She could build as big a divine kingdom as she wanted. Chun Zhao and the 23rd Blood Mary were just testing the waters. Then, the 23rd Blood Mary withdrew her divine kingdom. I should go. Goodbye. In fact, considering their current strength and status, it was impossible for them to do so. It didn't matter if they left Los Angeles. After all, there were too many ways to meet in this era. Even if there was something important, he could reach them with a phone call. After the 23rd Blood Mary left, Chun Zhao went to the underground base where Ares was locked up. Ares wasn't in a good state of mind recently. He looked up at Chun Zhao, who had just walked in. You haven't come to see me in a long time. You don't look like you're in a good state. My divine kingdom has been destroyed by you. My body has suffered great damage, and my power has been sealed. Now, I'm so weak that I'm about to die. If you want to kill me, do it as soon as possible. That way, you'll be able to add more color to your battle record. I don't want to die quietly in this dark corner. This was probably Ares' last bit of stubbornness. It was also to preserve his last bit of dignity. Chun Zhao passed a contract to Ares. Take a look. If there's no problem, sign it. The 23rd Blood Mary, Zhang Tianyi, and Bifla had helped Chun Zhao make this contract. Ares scrutinized the contents of the contract. You want me to serve you for 300 years? Yes. I don't have that much time. My divine kingdom has been destroyed, and I'm losing control of my power. Soon I'll completely collapse. Didn't you read the terms? While you're serving me, I'm obligated to treat any injuries you have, any injuries that are within my capabilities. The damage caused by the destruction of the divine kingdom is irreversible unless it's repaired. Chun Zhao took out a metal box and tossed it to Ares. Is this enough? Ares opened the box. Inside were some fragments of the divine kingdom. Where did you get it? That's not something you should be concerned about. Ares decisively signed his name on the contract. Then the contract was ignited. Chun Zhao brought Ares out of the prison. I thought it would be difficult or even impossible. No one wants to die, Ares said matter-of-factly. Even God doesn't want to die. You're stronger than me, so I can accept submitting to you. Do you need me to arrange an identity for you? No need. I'll find an identity that I like. Chun Zhao nodded. He'd recruited Ares mainly because he needed him in times of need. Times were different now. Chun Zhao didn't plan on ruling the world, but Chun Zhao needed more trump cards. What could he do by relying on himself? Chun Zhao couldn't do everything himself. Some things had to be done by others. The identity of Ares was still very valuable. After all, a living god was more valuable than a dead one. He had collected a lot of dead gods. He didn't care if he didn't have Ares or Ares. Recently, there were more and more supernatural incidents on the news. Even though the supernatural organization suppressed most of the news, there were still some that slipped through the net. Of course, there wasn't really strong evidence to prove the existence of supernatural incidents. After all, the supernatural organization mainly suppressed news like this with direct evidence. Some spiritualists also purposely exposed themselves to ordinary people. As such incidents became more and more frequent, Chun Zhao believed that the government wouldn't be able to hide it for long. The true Great Era wasn't far away. Chapter 30:19. Chun Zhao's phone rang. It was Xiao He. Chun Zhao picked it up. Mr. Chun, we want to talk to you. Talk about what? Can you come to our place? Just say it over the phone, Chun Zhao said impatiently. I'm busy. No. Actually, we feel that we've grown stronger recently, so we want to spar with you. Oh. Chun Zhao chuckled strangely. Sure, I'll go tonight. Xiao He nodded at Carrie beside her. He agreed, but the next part is the most troublesome. Don't worry. Even if we can't win, we can at least surprise him. It was late at night. A blue sports car drove into the neighborhood. Boom, boom, boom. Chun Zhao got out of the car and looked at the wrecked car. Chun Zhao realized that his entire series of sports cars was really full of misfortune. Right now, Xiao He and Carrie were lying in the distance in their combat suits, watching the situation with binoculars. It looks like the first trap was useless. He's not injured at all from such a violent explosion. What's his body made of? This is the mentality of weaklings like us and the necessary qualities of the strong. If he could get injured from such a trap, he would have died hundreds of times already, Xiao He said. Then why fight? Just surrender. We can't surrender. That trap was just the appetizer. There's more to come. Xiao Wu also squatted beside Carrie. Chen Zhao didn't care about Carrie and Xiao He's suicidal behavior. He was unperturbed. It had nothing to do with him anyway. They could do whatever they wanted. It had nothing to do with him. Their current plot was probably echoing in other people's ears. In fact, Chen Zhao knew where Xiao He and Carrie were. However, he didn't hear their conversation. The two little guys were pretty smart. They knew how to seal off the area around them with magic and put them in an enclosed area. It was hard for the outside world to sense their existence. If it wasn't for the little world, he would probably be tricked by them. Chen Zhao walked toward where the two were. Suddenly, there was nothing under his feet. Chen Zhao had fallen into the trap. The next moment, the magic in the trap was activated. White light suddenly flashed in the trap. Then Chen Zhao felt his body being sealed by a force. Anti-magic field? No, it's not the anti-magic domain. Just as he was about to activate it, he felt that the trap was draining his magic power. What followed was a violent explosion. Success. Xiao He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. You succeeded? It's a success. That trap will form an anti-magic domain for a short period of time. If he uses his mana in that area, his mana will be instantly sucked away, supplying the powerful, rootless fire in the trap. Then, Bua, Xiao He explained proudly. Are you sure? Definitely. But he seems to have escaped from the trap, and he looks completely fine. How is this possible? Xiao He picked up the binoculars and saw that Chen Zhao was indeed unscathed. Her expression immediately darkened. How is it possible? That was such a violent explosion. Why isn't he injured at all? Chen Zhao actually gave this trap a very high score. Other than not harming him, this trap had already played its role. At least, as a trap, it was quite good at being unexpected. Chen Zhao continued forward. Just then, rotten arms crawled out of the ground and gripped Chen Zhao's legs tightly. Necromancy? Chen Zhao was somewhat surprised. This wasn't Carrie's spell. Xiao He knew necromancy? Although it wasn't called necromancy in the East, there wasn't much difference in essence. Chen Zhao wasn't in a hurry to break free. There had to be something else. As expected, dozens of flickering, unstable spirits suddenly charged at him. Boom, boom, boom. The continuous impact of the explosions almost blasted the scene into pieces. The terrain had also changed. It was clear how powerful the explosions were. Wow! Xiao He shouted in excitement. Then she looked through the binoculars and realized that Chen Zhao had walked out of the explosion unscathed again. How is this possible? Even this didn't hurt him? Xiao He's good mood came and went quickly. I have no choice but to activate the ultimate trap. Gritting her teeth, Xiao He took out a remote control. Yes, her last trap was activated with a remote control. It was also very easy to activate. Boom, boom, boom. A series of explosions rang out. In the midst of the explosions, fire sprinklers sprayed toward the central area. Then, electric arcs spread toward the central area. I don't believe he can come out unscathed from such an explosion. What did you do? How can you create such a powerful explosion? Carrie's face was filled with shock and disbelief. It's simple. I blew up the gas pipe, Xiao He said. Xiao He said, I have also built a simple discharge field. I have already buried the electric cables, and the water sprayed out by the sprinklers is the conductor. I feel like you want to kill him. Think carefully before you answer. Just then, Chen Zhao's voice rang out in their crimson. Why are you here? Xiao He was dumbfounded. Carrie was also shocked by Chen Zhao's sudden appearance. He was unscathed again. Xiao He was in complete despair this time. Magic and technology combined, but Chen Zhao's skin wasn't even scratched. Moreover, he had suddenly appeared in their crimson like a ghost. There's such a heavy smell of gas in the air. Do you think my nose is just for show? Xiao He's face was full of disappointment. Okay, tell me what you wanted to do. Mr. Chen, we actually wanted to test our strength, Xiao He hurriedly explained. We already knew that this trap is useless against you. Apart from being a little weak, everything else is surprising. Mr. Chen, how do you rate our performance? 5. Only 5? Mr. Chen, Didn't you say that our trap was surprising? Yes, but in the end, as your target, I'm unscathed. A trap can't hurt anyone, so what's the point? Okay, let's talk business. You didn't call me here just to tease me, Chun Zhao said. Of course, I hope you can find a good reason. Mr. Chun, we actually have something important to do and need to leave for a while. What is it? Chapter 30:20. Expressionlessly, Chun Zhao looked at Xiao He and Carrie. The two girls were so nervous that they were about to explode. After a moment of silence, Chun Zhao asked, "What is it?" It's like this. Carrie has an adoptive father. Wait, she has an adoptive father? Chun Zhao remembered that Qing Ping Sage had said that Carrie didn't have any relatives in her investigation. She'd grown up in an orphanage. Chun Zhao looked at Carrie seriously. Tell me the truth. You have an adoptive father? Yes, but not really. When I was in the orphanage, I was adopted by him. Later, he went bankrupt, so I was sent back to the orphanage. But I've always kept in touch with him. And then, recently, I realized that he's in trouble. Carrie wasn't sure either. It wasn't trouble, but she still felt that being with a cult would be troublesome even if it wasn't. What kind of trouble? I'm not sure. I think he joined a cult. It's useless. Cultists are all crazy. Your adoptive father's been brainwashed. I suggest you kill him to prevent him from harming society. Chun Zhao didn't feel bad at all. If you tell me about that cult, I can help you get rid of it while I'm at it. How could Carrie agree? In her eyes, Chun Zhao was really cold-blooded. If he knew about her adoptive father might really be killed by Chun Zhao. Mr. Chun, give me a few days. I promise I'll come back after it's done. Carrie looked at Chun Zhao sincerely. How can you promise? Seeing that pretending to be pitiful was useless, Carrie gritted her teeth and thought. A moment later, Carrie looked up and said, I'll sign a contract with you. Chun Zhao's lips curled into a smile. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I agree to your request. Chun Zhao finally relented. Soon, Chun Zhao drew up a contract. In the contract, Carrie had to come back within 15 days. Otherwise, the contract would be triggered automatically. Chun Zhao could lock onto Carrie immediately. If she came back within the time limit, she would listen to any of Chun Zhao's arrangements for the next 3 years. But if she didn't come back within the time limit, she would be enslaved by Chun Zhao for 10 years. Carrie had no choice but to sign the contract. She had planned to bargain with Chun Zhao for a while, but Chun Zhao was right. But reality did not go as he wished. Chun Zhao had the attitude of, if you want to sign it, then sign it. If you don't, then forget it. Although Carrie gritted her teeth in anger, she still signed the contract in the end. Of course, she also made a small request. Xiao He also wanted to be her helper and gain temporary freedom. After completing the contract, Chun Zhao lifted the restriction on entering and leaving the community. All right, you can come and go now. Remember, the two of you only have 15 days of free time. If you don't come back by yourselves within 15 days, I will personally go and find you. Both of them felt the same way. They all knew that Chun Zhao wasn't joking. Just as Chun Zhao was about to leave, Carrie suddenly stopped him. Mr. Chun, any other questions? Can you lend us some money to fund our activities? According to the bank interest, how much do you want? How much can you borrow? Chun Zhao chuckled. How much did Carrie look down on him by asking this question? I can borrow as much as you dare. $100,000? Carrie asked tentatively. Even Xiao He could not help but roll her eyes. How much did Carrie look down on Chun Zhao? Xiao He did not know how much money Chun Zhao had, but she was sure that it would be an astronomical number. This is a check for $1 million. It's also an advance on your salary for the next 10 years. Wait, I didn't plan on asking for $1 million. That's too much. Also, according to the contract, we have to be enslaved by you for 10 years if we don't come back in 15 days. It hasn't even started yet. No, I have a feeling that you won't come back in 15 days. Take it. It's better than nothing. When Carrie received the check for $1 million, she did not know what she was feeling right now. It was clearly an unprecedented amount of money. But why could she not be happy? Carrie, what do we do now? What's your plan? Cash this check first. Xiao He was silent for a while. Good idea. She had never seen so much money before. She did not even have 1 million yuan, much less $1 million. The next day, they did not sleep at all. With such a huge sum of money, they had forgotten the purpose of borrowing it. Their minds were filled with how to spend the money. Yes, that's right. They had almost forgotten their original intentions. Now, they just wanted to have some fun. Early in the morning, they ran to the bank to cash the check. With the bank's credit card, they really felt like they were on cloud nine. Then, they went on a shopping spree for the whole day. The two of them didn't come to their senses until they finished spending at the high-end restaurant. "Carrie, what did we do today?" Xiaohe said, covering her face. "We wasted the whole day." Carrie's expression was also terrible. "Don't worry, we still have plenty of time." Then, the next day, they went on a shopping spree again. That night, Carrie roared, "That guy did it on purpose. He purposely gave us so much money to make us fall. He's a demon." Xiaohe felt the same way. She knew that they had something important to do and that they did not have much time left. However, they could not help it. Since breakfast, they've been lost in the dream of being rich. "Carrie, we can't go on like this. We need to act quickly. After we bring your adoptive father back, we still have time to play. Just not now." "All right, I understand." Carrie nodded heavily. On the third day, they were defeated by the demon of desire again. They fell into depravity once more, sinking into the pleasure of shopping. On the third night, they repented once more and firmly decided that they had to do something important the next day. On the fourth day, they finally overcame all the difficulties. However, it was not really difficult. "Carrie, where are we going now?" "To buy in my adoptive father's house." "Why are we going there? Can't you give him a call? Let him come back on his own?" "If I could, I would just call him home instead of asking him to let us out." "All right. Why are we going to your adoptive father's house? You should be in Europe, right?" Chapter 30:21. I don't have his contact number, but we agreed that if he's not at home and I can't contact him, I could go to his house and find him. He'll leave some contact numbers. "Are you sure your adoptive father's just a bankrupt thief? Not some kind of spy or something? It's not as complicated as you think. He just has a lot of enemies and creditors, so he's always prepared to run." "Okay, that's a good reason." After wasting 4 days, Carrie finally got into the swing of things. On the same day, they bought a flight to Switzerland. "President, do you have time now? Come to the headquarters." "Sure, I'll go now." After arriving at the headquarters, West tossed a document to Chen Zhao. The National Youth Supernatural Fighting Competition. Chen Zhao flipped through a few pages and put it down silently. He held his forehead. Is the government joking? No, it's serious. It's in Los Angeles and hosted by the Supernatural Organization. I'm sure now that the government is joking. Chen Zhao wasn't interested at all. Very uninterested. A competition for a group of youths? The supernatural world in North America wasn't active to begin with. Those who could participate had to be awakened first. This was already a part of it. Then, there was an age restriction. Since they were youths, they couldn't be very old. How many awakened youths could there be in America? Therefore, it was destined to be a battle between a few families with a certain amount of heritage. Actually, there were similar competitions for youths in other major regions. Whether it was Huaxia, Japan, or Europe, they all had similar competitions. However, the most important thing to hold a competition like this was that there had to be enough active supernatural areas. In such active areas, family inheritance had certain advantages, but each power and individual would have their own opportunities too. There were many participants, but no one could guarantee victory. But what about the Americans? When the tiger was gone, the monkey was king. Actually, the Supernatural Organization was the Monkey King. The Supernatural Organization was only average in the entire world. But in North America, they were the top supernatural organization. There weren't many people in the first place. Now, they were choosing the champion among them. It felt like the champion was already decided. There's no other way. West shrugged. Now that the government has also noticed the spirit energy tide, they want to make use of it to reserve talents in the supernatural field. The government has also realized this problem, so they have set the age limit of the competition at 22 years old. This way, there will be a lot more people participating. A 22-year-old is still considered a teenager? Isn't it better to just call a youth tournament? There's nothing we can do about it. If we really wanted to have a youth competition, the number of participants would definitely not be enough. In fact, it's just a youth competition in the name of youth. Must you do it? We are funded by the government, so we still have to do the tasks assigned by the government. All right then, you make your own arrangements. This has nothing to do with me. Our people won't get involved, right? Our men are not involved. How could West arrange his own people? Right now, they were walking the path of the elite. They had a lot of resources and rich combat experience. The younger generation of ordinary clans really couldn't compare. Therefore, if their children were to participate, it was very likely that they would break out of the encirclement, especially Jalanash, Helis, and more. They were all typical representatives. There was also Chun Zhao's student, Lit Grove. He wasn't a captain, but he was at least an official member. Now that he was in Angelite's team, his performance was quite different. Basically, this competition was to find talent for the government. How could they give their people to the government for free? Even West had the mentality of just dealing with the matter. How could they really give their own people away? Who's paying for this competition? Chen Zhao suddenly asked. The government's special department earmarks. Will the psionic team participate too? Probably. For them, this is a chance to accumulate experience. They also want the government to see their results. The supernatural organization didn't care about the opportunity to gain combat experience because they had plenty of opportunities to do so. Moreover, it wasn't in the ring, but on a real battlefield. But other forces might not have this chance. Whatever. If they want to participate, then let them. Chen Zhao shook his head. They had never been a match for the supernatural organization. The organization had always treated them as targets. Just then, Ruan Faxbin ran in. President, Mr. West, I hope I'm not disturbing you. You're already in, West said, annoyed. Are you looking for me or the president? I'm looking for the president. I found a young man recently. I think he's talented and he's an L.A. right now. President, how about you come with me? Go find a disciple yourself. Why should I go with him? Do you want me to beat him up? If that's the case, I'm happy to help. Not really, as long as he doesn't ask for something as ridiculous as that guy last time. But if he needs to show off his strength, then give him a heavy blow. Chun Zhao finally understood. He wanted him to go with him and scare him when necessary. I'm free too, West said. Let's go together. Ruan Faxbin shrugged. It didn't matter if it was 2 or 3. Along the way, Ruan Faxbin told Chun Zhao about the kid he liked. 14. His parents aren't very rich. They're both ordinary people. His father is a firefighter and his mother is unemployed. Then how did he learn alchemy? Chun Zhao asked. He already has a master. Unlike other spiritualists, alchemists had to have a master to teach them, even if they were awakened. It's an alchemy book I left behind. In fact, a few years ago, when he was awakened, I secretly left him an alchemy book. I've also been observing him secretly. If he shows talent in alchemy, I'll get in touch with him. Isn't the chance too low? If you do the same thing a few times, you'll eventually meet someone with talent. How many awakened kids did you find? Not many, just 100 or so, Ruan Faxbin said. Chun Zhao was speechless. West was speechless. How did you find so many awakened kids? I feel like the supernatural organization hasn't dealt with as many awakened cases in the past 2 years as you did, and they're all kids. It's simple. I've created a magical device that can detect the abnormal spiritual waves on ordinary people. The spiritual waves produced by ordinary people either come into contact with a spiritualist or they've awakened. With a little analysis, we'll be able to determine if they've awakened. Chapter 3022. The three sat in the car and looked at the boy in the alley. The boy was wearing a hoodie, as if trying to hide his appearance. However, the hoodie couldn't hide his young face. There were 2 adults before the boy. They were whispering something, as if they were making some kind of deal. This kind of scene was very common in America. Not often. Most of the time, it was adults selling forbidden items to minors. But right now, the roles seemed to be reversed. The boy was the seller, while the 2 adults were the buyers. The 2 seemed to be bargaining. The situation fell into a stalemate. After 10 minutes, both sides finally took a step back and the deal continued. The 2 adults left contentedly. Before leaving, they specially glanced at Chun Zhao, West, and Ruan Faxbin in the car. Clearly, they discovered the 3. However, They only treated the three as buyers like them. The boy also discovered the three in the car. Of course, this was because the three didn't hide at all. Instead, they purposely leaked some magical aura. The boy wasn't afraid. Instead, he walked to the car. "You're here to buy things too, right? What good stuff do you have here?" Ruan Fazabin asked. The boy took out 3 rings. "I made these myself. You can see the quality." The three each picked up a ring. Chun Zhao and Wes could only tell the good from the bad. In their eyes, these things were even worse than the things in the recycling warehouse. Usually, Ruan Fazabin's magic tools would fail occasionally, or when the members of the association broke them, they would throw them into the warehouse, waiting to be broken down and recycled. As for the ring the boy took out, it was of an even lower quality than those recycled goods. From the material to the craftsmanship to the effects, every single one of them was proof of the taste of inferior goods. On the other hand, Ruan Faxi obviously saw more things. The quality of the magic rings themselves was very low. However, this was a product limited by the boy's current magic power, magic level, knowledge, and materials. He'd done the best he could at his current stage. Of course, it might not be the best yet, but at least Ruan Faxi felt that even at his age, at his cognitive stage, it would be difficult for him to do better than him. "How much?" "The 2 red ones are $100, and the purple one is better." "It's at least $500, the boy said. "Are you short of money?" Ruan Faxburn asked. "Please, which kid doesn't need money?" The boy said matter-of-factly, "I just changed my girlfriend, so it's natural that I'm short of money." I'll take all 3 rings." Ruan Faxi drew a few franklins. "Thank you for your generosity." The smile on the boy's face was almost overflowing. But before the boy could get the money, Ruan's tone suddenly changed. The boy instinctively felt that something was wrong. "However, I still need you to modify the magic circuits of these 3 rings." The boy frowned and looked at Ruan with dissatisfaction. Modify magic circuits? This was the best he could do. How else did he want her to modify it? "Are you using the Heart's Net diagram magic circuit?" The Mind Net diagram isn't friendly to most spiritualists, so I hope that you can modify the magic circuit into the Holy Circuit magic circuit. "What Heart Net diagram? What Holy Circuit magic circuit?" The boy was completely dumbfounded. It was the first time he had heard such a professional term. "If you can help me modify it, I can pay you $30,000, Ruan Faxi said. Upon hearing the $30,000, the boy forgot everything. $30,000. He had to make hundreds of magic rings to earn that much. But he really didn't understand what the HeartNet diagram or the Holy Circuit magic circuit was. According to this man, the magic circuit he was using now was the HeartNet diagram. Then, what was the Holy Circuit magic circuit? "Sir, I'm just a beginner. I don't know what the Holy Circuit magic circuit is, but it would be best if you could explain it." "You want to learn the Holy Circuit magic circuit? Can I?" The boy looked at Ruan Faxi carefully. "Do you know how much a magic book for the Holy Circuit magic circuit costs?" How much?" "A complete version costs more than $6 million. If it's a simplified version or a separate book, it's between $500,000 and $1 million. The boy sucked in a breath of cold air. "So expensive? Do you have a teacher?" Ruan Faxi asked. "Of course I do," the boy replied loudly. His answers seemed to be more of a way to boost his courage. "Is that so? What a pity. I originally thought that if you didn't have one, you could follow me and become my student. At the same time, you could read my magic book. Since you have a teacher, forget it. You're an alchemist too? Then why do you still want to buy these magic rings from me? Can't you make them yourself?" "Oh, these things you're selling, other than the purple one, which can barely be used once or twice, I'll just tear the 2 red magic rings apart. After all, the materials are more valuable than the rings themselves. By the way, you don't seem to know the prices. To be honest, the price you gave is too low. You'll lose a lot of money doing business like this." The boy's face turned green and red. "You could have earned 10 times the profit or even 100 times the profit, but now I can only see you making a loss, a serious loss. Your craftsmanship is crude, and you're selling it at an extremely low price, not even 1/10 of the price of the raw materials. I really don't understand what your teacher taught you. You can't become rich like this. Do you know that alchemists are super rich?" West and Chen Zhao both chuckled without saying a word. Rich? You're not worthy of being called rich. Ruan Faxi was lying through his teeth. Alchemists indeed had a huge market profit, but at the same time, they also needed to spend a lot of money to maintain their research. The boy suddenly raised his head. Sir, I apologize for the lie just now. I don't have a teacher. I only found an alchemy book at home and learned everything by myself. Can you accept me as your student? Are you sure you don't have a teacher? Ruan Faxi asked to confirm again. Actually, he knew the boy's background very well. He even knew what color the boy was wearing today. Yes, sir. I swear. Do you know that alchemy can't be learned overnight? It requires perseverance and determination. Sir, I have perseverance. Chapter 3023. Just like that, Ruan Faxbin tricked a kid right in front of Chen Zhao and West, a 14-year-old minor. Chen Zhao and West didn't know why Ruan Faxbin had called them here. Was he here to see his trickery? Okay, you succeeded. The two guessed maliciously. Just then, two more people came from the other side of the road. Hey kid, you've been tricked. Chen Zhao, West, and Ruan Faxbin all looked annoyed. The boy, on the other hand, looked surprised. When Ruan Faxbin saw one of them, his expression turned even worse. The person was very young, only 16 or 17. Mr. Faxbin, what's wrong with you? You didn't trick me last time, so now you're trying to trick a minor? The young man's disdainful tone made Ruan Faxbin even more furious. The boy looked at Ruan Faxbin in surprise. Thinking back, Ruan Faxbin really did look like a liar. The boy took a few steps back instinctively. Just then, Chen Zhao and West got off. Ruan Faxbin also got off. Domelin, I think you're a talented young man, Ruan said coldly. I want to recruit you as my disciple. You can refuse, but you shouldn't interfere with my recruitment of a new disciple. You'll also see this as cheating. Whatever. If that's really the case, why didn't you tell him that alchemists aren't rich at all? You can't even satisfy my small request. You actually lied to this kid and said that alchemists can make a lot of money, the young man called Domelin said bluntly. Just then, Chen Zhao walked up and poked Domelin's chest. Kid, are you the young man who doesn't know what's good for him that Faxbin talked about last time? With your vision, you're only worthy of the title of a fallen magician family. You originally had a chance to get rich and at least restore some of your family's glory. But your brain and your pitiful knowledge of your family's inheritance that should have been broken long ago made you miss your last chance. Serves you right for your family's inheritance to end. Just then, the man beside Domelin stopped Chen Zhao. You'd better be polite to my people. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer. You want me to suffer? Chen Zhao sneered at the man. Do you know who I am? I don't care who you are, but you better know who you're facing. Domelin stared at Chen Zhao with a pale face. Chen Zhao's words had deeply hurt him. Chen Zhao fished out a few rings from his pocket. Domelin's pupils suddenly contracted. These rings were all high-grade goods, and all of them exuded an astonishing magical aura. However, that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the main raw materials of these magic rings were from WIRMS. West stepped forward. Boss, the magic rings on your hand are obsolete. I forgot to give you the new ones. With that, West took out a handful of magic rings. Which ones do you need? Domelin's pupils suddenly constricted. What magic material is this? It felt even more amazing than the magic ring made from dragon materials. Why aren't there any magical spring rings? I like them. Boss, magical spring rings can only provide magic power. They're not that effective. But I like that color. Boss, I'll go back and make them now, Ruan Faxbin said. Forget it. Without magical spring rings, I don't need these. Faxbin, remember to improve the appearance when you go back. Yes, boss. Chen Zhao picked up a ring and put on his finger. Then he looked left and right and shook his head. It doesn't look good. With that, Chen Zhao took off the ring. Under Domelin's shocked gaze, Chen Zhao crushed it. Chen Zhao looked at Domelin. Sorry. I shouldn't do this in front of a poor mage family descendant like you. After all, you probably can't even afford dragon blood crystals. But you're not bad now. You're a good match for the person beside you. Domelin's expression did not need to be mentioned. The man beside him did not look too good either. Dragon blood crystals? He vaguely remembered that the magic shops in Los Angeles sold an extremely expensive magic material called dragon blood crystals. He'd heard of the price. It was definitely frighteningly expensive. But Chun Zhao had crushed a dragon blood crystal so casually. This was a waste of a heavenly treasure. Even though they knew that Chun Zhao was using this method to regain his face, they still felt that it was a waste. But they still felt that it was too wasteful. Sir, don't you think it's too much to insult a young man like this? Chun Zhao West and Ruan Faxbin all looked proud. Am I insulting him? Chun Zhao turned his head to look at West and Ruan Faxbin. No, I think you're letting those who overestimate themselves see reality, especially those poor mage families. Ruan Faxbin found the joy of revenge. Chun Zhao looked back at the boy. Kid, let me introduce myself. I'm a billionaire. I don't think you're worth lying to you. Sorry, as a businessman, I have to focus on profits first. We came to you because we think you have value that can benefit us. No matter if it's in normal society or in the spiritual world, you have to show your value first before you can get the corresponding return. Don't be like him, who thinks that he should get $1 for every dollar he creates. To be honest, even alchemy isn't as profitable as you think. But I can guarantee that if you create $10 million, you'll get 1 million. As for them, you can follow them. Their goal is the same as ours, your talent. Forgive me for being honest, but you might need 20 to 30 years to earn $1 million. I can guarantee that you'll become a billionaire in 10 years, but you'll need to spend 1 or 2 years studying first. Okay, make your choice. Follow these poor guys or follow us. Domelin's expression became even worse. It wasn't just because Chun Zhao humiliated him every time. It was also because he was tempted. This man radiated the aura of a rich person from head to toe. This was a fatal attraction for the heir of a poor family. Looking at the boy, Ruan Faxbin pointed at Domelin. You're not the only one, just like how he's not the only one. Ruan Faxbin's words made Domelin feel even worse. Chapter 3024. The man beside Domelin clenched his fists. It seemed like he could attack at any moment. Chun Zhao wasn't as tall as Domelin, but his gaze was condescending. Before you attack, you better know who my boss is, West said. Even your higher-ups don't dare to look at my boss like that, kid. Even if I threw your head in front of your house, the higher-ups in your family wouldn't dare to fart, West said. West looked at Domelin. I have to say that you rejected us and chose the worst. The only team that could compete with the supernatural organization in Los Angeles was undoubtedly the psionic team. Chun Zhao didn't attack because Domelin was just a small fry in the psionic team. He probably hadn't joined for long, or else he would have recognized Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao hadn't been to the psionic team's headquarters for long. It hadn't even been a month. This meant that the man before him and Domelin had joined the team less than a month ago. Of course, Domelin understood what West meant. He thought that he'd made a good choice. At least the psionic team had given him a lot of research support. In particular, the few requests that he had made were satisfied to a certain extent. But what people feared the most was a comparison between people. His teammate, who'd supported him before, suddenly became taciturn. It was as if he'd been scared by him. That was the truth, because Thermus suddenly remembered something. When he joined the psionic team, the older generation had given him a warning. In Los Angeles, the psionic team had an old enemy, and the boss of this enemy was an Asian. He was a terrifyingly strong enemy that made one's hair stand on end. Therma felt like he'd hit the jackpot. No, it wasn't a feeling. He'd really hit the jackpot. Without surprise, the boy chose Ruan Faxbin. He was at an age where he could understand things. The magic rings he'd made weren't really spent on his girlfriend. He was just making money for his family. It was a practical problem. He'd follow whoever could make him rich. He'd follow whoever could make him a millionaire. It had nothing to do with good or evil, loyalty, or anything like that. He didn't even know Ruan Faxbin. He was only attracted by Chun Zhao's words. Even if Therma and Dalmyron gave him 99% of the profits, if the actual price of the sale was only a few $100s, why didn't he go with Ruan Fassbender? Perhaps he could only get 10% of the profits, but a low rate of return would give him a higher return. It was like one was selling luxury goods, while the other was selling daily necessities. Could the profits of daily necessities compare to the profits of luxury goods? Kid, you haven't introduced yourself yet. In the car, Ruan Faxaben said, "Since you've come to my door, don't tell me you haven't investigated my identity? At least my name shouldn't be a secret. You're the disciple I've chosen. Behind you are my boss and my superiors. You should at least tell them your name instead of letting your teacher introduce you." The boy in the passenger seat looked back at Chun Zhao and West. "Greetings, sirs. I'm Tamika. Hi. You can call me President or Chun. What organization are we? Righteous or evil?" "Actually, we're half a government department," West said. "There's no such thing as righteous or evil. You just have to remember that we have law enforcement rights in California. Then can I teach those bastards in school a lesson without worrying about being taken away by the police? No, you can't. Also, even if you join the supernatural organization, you'll only be a technical support. Fighting has nothing to do with you. How long do I need to study to earn money? If it's just a basic salary," West said. "But if you really want to earn money, you need to study with Faxban for at least 3 years. Basic salary? How much? It's probably higher than your father's income." "Really? My father's income isn't low," Tamika said excitedly. Actually, his father was a high-risk firefighter, so his income wasn't low. The average firefighter in Los Angeles earned more than $60,000 a year. However, Tamika's mother was sick, so more than half of his family's income was used to pay for his mother's treatment. His mother was also pregnant. In 4 months, he would have a sister. But this also meant that his family would have another mouth to feed. At the same time, his father's promised family vacation plan at the end of the year would be ruined. This was how Americans spent money. Most families didn't have more than $1,000 in savings. "But I'm still in school." Tamika looked at his teacher, troubled. "I don't really care about school, but I can't tell my parents that I'm going to learn magic and that I'm quitting school, right? Don't worry. Soon, you'll be transferred to another school. It's already been arranged. You can just report to the headquarters every day. As for your grades and attendance, they'll be reported to your parents regularly. In their eyes, you're still the good kid who goes to school on time. But are you sure you won't be exposed? You should be in school now. Since we met here, it means that this isn't your first time skipping school." Tamika scratched his head awkwardly. "Can I get my salary in advance?" "I want." "Yes, this is your bank card. Your salary will be directly deposited into this card. But once you accept this card, it means that our relationship is established. If you break the promise, your misdeeds since young will be shown to your parents, including you being caught peeking at a girl's underwear, the teacher asking you to look for your parents, and the fact that you hired a father," Ruan Faxban said sternly. Tamika shuddered. He felt like he'd fallen into a wolf's den. "Is it too late for me to back out now? Then your parents will receive this gift tonight." Tamika might only be 14, but he matured early. People said that children of the poor matured early. Tamika was an example. Also, your mother's illness isn't difficult to treat. Modern medicine can't solve it, but magic can, Ruan Faxban said. "Really? Can I?" "Of course, but you have to wait until she gives birth. Also, you can use this time to study potions. Although I'm not an expert in potions, I still have many related books. Our chairman is also a top medical expert. You can ask him for advice." "No, don't look for me. I don't have much time." Chapter 3025. The supernatural youth fighting competition that West was in charge of was being prepared in an orderly manner. It wasn't hard for the supernatural organization to organize a low-level competition like this. It was just money. Everything was fine as long as they had money. Of course, it couldn't be compared to a high-end competition. For example, the Battle of the Holy Light was millions of light years ahead of the supernatural youth fighting competition. The Battle of the Holy Light used a mirror image of a city as the arena. The supernatural youth fighting competition was held in a regular stadium. Only the top forces in the world could participate in the former. The latter could basically be judged as a competition to make up the numbers. To be honest, those with real potential were almost unwilling to participate. Chun Zhao didn't interfere. He couldn't either. It was the best choice to leave it to West. Chun Zhao would only be a hindrance if he did. The invitations were sent out too. However, he wasn't sure how many people would participate yet. Europe, Switzerland. A man wearing a hat and a trench coat walked into the cafe. After looking around the cafe for a while, he walked towards a table. Carrie raised her head and looked at the man in front of her. Bayan. The man before her was her adoptive father. He was Bayan, the deputy leader of the New Era Church, who was listed as wanted by the governments of various countries on TV. Bayan glanced at Xiao He, who was sitting beside him. He couldn't help but frown. Who is he? Interpol? Or a government agent? No, she's my friend, Carrie said. She came with me this time. No, she doesn't look like your partner. Bayan wasn't very skilled in the outside world, but he still had a good eye. I didn't say she's a thief. Anyway, you don't have to worry about her. Carrie rolled her eyes. Aren't you going to sit down? You'll be more conspicuous like this. And you're standing in the aisle. Are you afraid that people won't know you're wanted? Bayan still sat down. He looked at Carrie. Why did you come to me? You shouldn't have come. Of course. How did you become the deputy leader of a cult? Are you out of your mind? No, I know what I'm doing. Listen, Carrie, buy a plane ticket back to Los Angeles immediately. I'm not joking with you. Did someone threaten you? Bayan, come back with me. I know someone. I can ask him to protect you. Bayan rolled his eyes. Do you even know people? Bayan had watched Carrie grow up. She knew all too well Carrie's network of people. I am now a wanted criminal in many countries. I just need to spend some money. Carrie had thought about it. She would borrow money from Chun Zhao later. Since she had already borrowed $1 million, she didn't mind borrowing another $1 million. Anyway, you don't have to worry about my business. Go back immediately. I have my own business. Bayan, is the cult your career? Don't lie to me. You don't have any faith at all. You don't even believe in a proper religion. Why would you run over to a cult? In that new era, how stupid is the person who came up with this name? Shut up. Don't talk about this name casually, Bayan said in a low voice. I won't leave unless you come back with me. Go back? I'll be caught as soon as I reach the airport. How can I go back? Don't be stupid, Carrie. You don't have to worry about my business. Just leave. That's impossible, Carrie said calmly. Maybe I should yell right now, so that you can't escape. Bayan's face darkened. Carrie, it's dangerous here. I'm serious. You shouldn't have gotten involved. So you knew that you joined a cult, or were you forced to join? In short, I was safe before you came. You made me less safe. Fine, we'll leave today. Xiao He booked the plane tickets. A moment later, Carrie showed Bayan her phone. Look, I've already booked the tickets. Bayan stared at Carrie with a dark expression. Don't play tricks like this. It's not funny at all. Who do you think you are? You only have enough money for a round trip. So, whether I book the tickets or not, you won't believe me. But I hope you're serious this time, Carrie. I don't want you to get involved. You don't understand what you're facing. Magic? Werewolves? Vampires? Gods? Bayan, I come into contact with some mysterious things in the past few months. I know much more than you can imagine, Carrie said disapprovingly. Come on, you've come into contact with magic? You even need to use a computer to add and subtract from 1 to 10. Can you understand magic formulas? Carrie was furious. She gritted her teeth and glared at Bayan. She glanced at the coffee cup on the table. Slowly, it floated up. Bayan was shocked. His expression changed drastically. Damn, what's going on? How did you do it? Do you really know magic? Oomph. What else do you have to say? Heavens, how is that possible? Tell me, Carrie, is there really magic in this world? Didn't you join an evil cult? The person who brought you in should have shown you some supernatural power. Otherwise, with your rationality, you wouldn't have joined. Maybe they gave you some unrealistic promises, such as money, women, power, and so on. Anyway, it's no different from a demon bewitching people. Bayan was speechless. He felt very uncomfortable, because Carrie's words were spot on. Carrie, did you join some peacekeeping organization? Are you here to investigate the new era behind me? No, I'm just here to take you back, you idiot. A trace of disappointment flashed in Bayan's eyes. He sighed. Forget it, go. Even if you have supernatural power, you can't fight against the new era. Listen to me and leave. Do you think I'll leave empty-handed? Or you can give me the information about the new era. I'll call the police and let them handle this matter. You could be a tainted witness. Carrie, you're too naive. How much information do you think I have? You're the deputy head. You should know a lot, right? No. In fact, the information I have is pitifully little. I'm not sure if all the police in Switzerland can solve this. I heard that Switzerland is an active area in the supernatural world. There should be professionals involved. Don't worry. Supernatural world? Is that what people with superpowers like you call it? Chapter 3026. Both Xiaohe and Carrie were surprised. They had thought that since Bayan had joined an evil cult, he would have more or less come into contact with the supernatural world. They didn't expect Bayan to say such amateurish words. Either this cult was just an empty title, or Bayan's position as the deputy cult leader was just an empty title. Carrie was considering whether or not to use force. She directly tied Bayan up. At that moment, Bayan pulled up his sleeve. Both Xiaohe and Carrie were startled. There was a bloated tumor on Bayan's arm. The two of them felt nauseous and shocked at the sight of it. What's this? You can think of it as a time bomb, Bayan said helplessly. It's out of range, Bua. Carrie hesitated, but still reached out and poked the tumor. Do you feel anything? No. How can we remove this thing? There's no way. Someone in our church tried. You don't want to know the result. The two fell silent. Carrie said again, maybe I can find a way. Don't even think about it. Nobody can do it. Bayan stood up. Carrie, go. If there's a chance in the future, I'll visit you. Bayan, I feel like you're making arrangements for your funeral. Shut up. I'm not dead, Bayan swore. I'm leaving. This time, Carrie didn't stop Bayan. She knew that he was in danger. But she also knew that if she stopped Bayan now, he would probably die. Xiaohe and Carrie stared at each other for a long time. What do you think? Carrie asked. First of all, there's something I don't understand. What is it? Why did this evil cult of the new era find your adoptive father to be the deputy leader? Forgive me for being blunt, but he's just an ordinary person. He has no abilities, no magic, no identity, no status, no money, and he doesn't even have knowledge or manners. How can he be the deputy leader? Carrie's cheeks twitched. Damn it. How could Xiaohe describe all of her adoptive father's characteristics so accurately? Obviously, her adoptive father was very successful in being a failure. In the past, he had at least some money, but after going bankrupt, he had achieved remarkable results in being a failure. Bjorn was simply a model, an excellent loser. No one could surpass him in this aspect. That's right. Why would such a loser be appointed as the deputy sect leader? Just because he was a loser? That cult couldn't possibly be so lacking in manpower, right? If even Bjorn could become the deputy sect leader, he could even become their faith. So why? Carrie was also full of doubts. Could it be that Bayan has something that the cult needs? If I were the person in charge of the cult, I would have used force. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to get something from him. Maybe a round of beatings would be enough. Even if it was a gentler way, I reckon he would have gotten the thing he needed by sleeping with a woman, and then he would have thrown it away after getting it. That's why your adoptive father got the position of deputy hierarch in such a strange way. Jollywen felt that her adoptive father was really useless according to Xiaohe. But why did it feel so real? All right, you're right, but can you stop complaining about my adoptive father's shortcomings? For the first time, Jollywen felt that Xiaohe had such a sharp tongue. All right, let's get down to business. What do you think? How would I know? Let's make a hypothesis. If the cult really wants to get something from your adoptive father, then what can't they take away? This, Jollywen couldn't think of anything that Bjorn had that the cult couldn't take away. Life? No, it's not difficult for the cult to kill one or two people, especially a piece of trash like Bjorn. It wasn't life, nor was it a soul. Just then, a loud noise came from outside the coffee shop. Then, the coffee shop started to shake violently, as if there was an earthquake. The customers and employees in the coffee shop were all frightened. Xiaohe and Jollywen looked at each other and hurriedly ran out. The explosion came from across the street from the coffee shop. Then, they saw Bjorn escape into a car. Two people leaned out of the car and fired at the car behind them. In the car behind them, two people were brazenly using magic. In any case, the one in front used a machine gun, and the one in the back used magic. Jolly Wen and Xiao He were dumbfounded. Were all the European spiritualists so tough? They were using magic in public. Were North America and Hua Xiao outdated? Judging from the situation, it was obvious that the people using machine guns couldn't beat the people using magic. Of the two gunmen using machine guns, half of one's body was hit by a thunderstorm. Then, half of his body was gone, and his severed body hung on the car window. As for the machine guns they used, when they hit the spiritualists at the back, they would create ripples in front of them. Clearly, the magic shield protected them well. Jolly Wen, what do we do? For a moment, Jolly Wen didn't know what to do. After all, it was her first time seeing a magic battle. Or rather, she saw half of the magic casters. A hail of bullets and magic missiles collided. Let's wait and see. Jolly Wen decided not to move. She was worried about Bjorn's safety, but she didn't know what was going on. Just then, Bjorn's car started. It seemed that they also realized that they couldn't beat the people behind them in a head-on fight. Then the flying car sped. Xiao He, hold my hand. Jolly Wen immediately summoned Jiu Wu and pulled Xiao He onto its back. After Xiao He and Jolly Wen rode on Jiu Wu's back, they automatically entered stealth mode. Jiu Wu, catch up with the two cars in front. Jiu Wu immediately started. Its speed wasn't any slower than the two speeding cars in front. The two cars chased and fled. Jiu Wu chased with all its might. Unknowingly, they had arrived in a dense forest. Suddenly, the door of Bjorn's car opened, and half of a body was thrown out. At first, the people behind them didn't care. However, a sudden change occurred. The upper half of the body suddenly squirmed and turned into a bloody monster. The monster looked like a strange ooze monster, but it exuded a bone-chilling aura. Whoosh! The bloody monster suddenly spat out a mouthful of pus. The car behind them didn't have time to stop. Instantly, half of the car melted. The people in the car quickly escaped, but someone was a step slower. His arm was stained with pus. Then he watched as he was slowly eroded and dissolved. Chapter 30:27. The chasing party had lost a person. Only 2 men and 2 women were left, and their expressions were ugly. The flesh monster was still in front of them. Xiao He and Carrie were hiding in the back. They had seen the scene just now. It had really given them a fright. What's that thing? That's disgusting. Although they had come into contact with many supernatural things, most of them were spirits or transformed spirits. However, the vast majority of them were either spiritual bodies or transformed into spiritual bodies. A small portion of them were magical beasts. They had never seen such a thing before. The flesh monster had subverted their definition of the word disgusting. It was disgusting to the extreme. The 4 people were helpless against the flesh monster's attacks. A burst of flames landed on the flesh monster's body, creating a splash. A normal person would have been badly mangled, but the flesh monster itself was badly mangled. The only one who had an obvious effect was an ice-type mage, although it could not deal fatal damage to the flesh monster. It was very effective in slowing down the flesh monster's movements, but could only slow it down. The damage of ice magic was also penetrative. If it was a normal creature, a few icicles would be enough to deal with it. If it was not dealt with, a few more icicles would be enough to kill it. But for this flesh monster, even 10 or 20 more would be useless. Then the 4 people began their famous strategy. Kiting, it went smoothly at the beginning, but not long after, something went wrong. Seeing that it could not catch up to the 4 people, the flesh monster shot pieces of flesh at them. These pieces of flesh were directly separated from its body. Just like the first victim, the moment they touched a bit of flesh, their entire body melted into a pool of unknown liquid. If they landed on the limbs, it was fine. If they could cut them off in time, they could at least stop the melting process. But if they landed on the main body, neck, or head, it would be troublesome. Another person was hit. It was one of the women. At first, it got on her clothes, and in a panic, she slapped it off with both hands. Then her hands began to dissolve. She screamed in pain, but could not stop the flesh from dissolving. It was an extremely horrifying and disgusting scene. The expressions of the remaining 3 people were terrible. Fortunately, The flesh monster's splattered pieces were not large, only a few meters in diameter. If they left that range, they would not be a threat. Distance yourself. Don't get close to that organic fusion, the remaining woman shouted. The other two men were probably her direct subordinates, and they listened to her orders. I'll use ice magic to freeze its movements. Magni, use lightning magic to completely shatter the ice. Wade, you'll be in charge of burning the flesh and blood within it to ashes. The woman deploys in an emergency. The three of them formed a triangular encirclement while maintaining a distance of at least 5 meters from the organic fusion body. The woman was the first to cast a spell, and this time, she cast it with the greatest amount of magic power. Freezing wind freeze. The surrounding temperature dropped very quickly, with the temperature falling the fastest in the range of the organic fusion body. Even Carrie and Xiao He, who were more than 30 meters away, felt a piercing chill. The organic fusion body was freezing rapidly. It did not seem to be completely unconscious. It fiercely shot a piece of flesh at the woman, trying to interrupt her spellcasting. However, the woman's magic had already been fully activated. The melted flesh and blood turned into ice cubes in midair and hit the woman's body, but she was unscathed. Soon, the organic fusion body could no longer split into pieces of flesh and blood. Its flesh and blood had already been frozen solid. Can I attack now? The two men could tell that their boss was having a hard time maintaining this ultimate spell. No, only the outer layer of flesh and blood has been frozen. We need to completely freeze it. If she were to shatter the outer layer now, it would be completely meaningless. Instead, it would cause all her previous efforts to go to waste. She was also trying her best to maintain the output of magic power. However, the amount of magic power consumed by this ultimate spell was too shocking. Every additional second of maintenance was a huge test for her. The outer layer of the organic fusion body was already covered by ice cubes. However, the woman was still holding on. This lasted for almost 10 minutes. Finally, the woman collapsed to the ground. Magni, do it! Magni had been waiting for a long time. He shouted, "Thunder Meteor!" A terrifying arc of lightning shot out from Magni's palms. Boom! The organic fusion body was blasted into more than 10 pieces. Wade didn't need the woman's reminder and immediately went to cast fire magic. Fire magic was very ineffective against the organic fusion body as a whole. However, it was very effective against the shards. Finally, with the sacrifice of 2 companions, the organic fusion body was finally destroyed. The remaining 3 were extremely tired. Moreover, they didn't look happy at all. They had sacrificed 2 people and their target had escaped. It could be said that their mission had completely failed. After a few minutes of rest, the woman suddenly looked at where Carrie and Xiao He were hiding. Are you going to come out yourself? Or do I have to force you out? Xiao He and Carrie were both startled. They were like Han Wu, achieving physical invisibility. Unexpectedly, they were still discovered. Helpless, the two could only reveal their true forms. However, the moment they did so, everyone, including the woman, was shocked. Xiao He and Carrie suddenly felt like they had been tricked. Too stupid. How could they be so stupid? The two even wondered if Chan Zhao would be punished more severely if he found out about this. Who are you? The woman asked. Are you from the New Era Church? No. Carrie hurriedly waved her hands. We're here for a vacation. We just happened to see you chasing on the road, so we followed to see what happened. Which country are you spiritualists from? Shouldn't you introduce yourself? Carrie said. Switzerland, Duke's Palace, Crandall's. We're from America, Los Angeles, Carrie said. You followed us secretly. If you were just watching, that's not right. You didn't help us. We're not good at dealing with these things. We're better at dealing with spirits and magical beasts. When Crandalls heard that the 2 women were from North America, he was already half convinced. He had heard about the situation in North America. It was a magic desert. Foreign spiritualists, you need to go back with us to register. Will they restrict our freedom? We will do a preliminary investigation on your intentions and identity. After confirming that there are no mistakes, you'll be free. It won't be long, at most a day. Chapter 3028. After some investigation, Codels confirmed that Xiaohe and Carrie were both from Los Angeles. Xiaohe was Chinese, but she was studying in Los Angeles. However, she also noticed that Carrie seemed to have a criminal record. Of course, these were all insignificant things. At least Codels confirmed that Xiaohe and Carrie were not their enemies. You two are spiritualists too, right? Miss Wang, which Chinese sect are you from? Codels asked. Codels was more interested in Xiaohe. It cannot be helped. The supernatural world in China was too active. There were many mountain gates and sections. Official, private, and family. Almost all kinds of supernatural organizations could survive in China. Prosperity also meant that there would be powerful individuals and complete inheritances. This was why Codels was interested in Xiaohe. I can't tell you, but this Miss Carrie's legacy is also from China. It's a top-level legacy. Cranlisos sucked in a cold breath. The top-level legacy in China, that was equivalent to the top-level legacy in the world. No one could deny this. There were only a few that could be called the top-level legacy in China. Only Buddhism and Taoism had the right to be called the top-level legacy. Since Carrie was a woman, it was obvious that she would not care about them. Then it could only be Taoism. Carrie did not know where her spells came from either, but Xiaohe still had some knowledge. Therefore, she deduced Carrie's heritage from the spells and spells that she usually cast. Moreover, most of the spells that Carrie had inherited were the more common evil spells of Mao Mountain Town. These spells were easy to distinguish. They were Mao Mountain's signature spells. Then, there was Yuwu. According to Carrie's description, Xiaohe went to investigate. She found that Yuwu was also Mao Mountain's guardian beast. Codels looked at Carrie in surprise. Are you two interested in joining our organization? Your organization? Is the Swiss Duke's Palace official? No, but we're supervised by the government. Sometimes we'll accept missions from them. Xiaohe and Carrie looked at each other. It felt like the Swiss Duke's Palace was similar to the supernatural organization. They already knew that Chun Zhao was the leader of the supernatural organization. The supernatural organization was also a similar organization, but it was also different. The supernatural organization was working for the government in exchange for the government's benefits. If the government did not give them any benefits, then everyone would part on good terms. It was more like an employer-employee relationship. But what was up with this Swiss ducal palace? Only obligations, no rights? Sorry, we all have our own organizations, Xiaohe said. Is that so? What a pity. Cranlisos wasn't surprised. It was very common for spiritualists to form teams. Can you tell me about the group of people you fought with yesterday? They're a cult. New Age. Have you heard of them? I've heard of it. There is nothing to deny. It had already been reported to the media. It would be a lie to say that he had never heard of it. What kind of magic is that? That's not magic. It's a product of twisted technology. If it's magic, it would be easier. After all, magic has been evolving for thousands of years. No matter how strange the magic is, we can trace it back to its source and find a way to break it. But this kind of twisted technology is a big headache for us. That doesn't seem too difficult to solve, right? It wasn't that Xiaohe and Carrie were looking down on each other. At least, they felt that if it were the two of them, it wouldn't be a problem to deal with dozens of them at once. It wasn't like Cranlisos, who only managed to kill one of them after losing 2 out of 5 of them. Those monsters are called organic fusion bodies. As you can see, they're extremely troublesome, but that's only the lowest level of monsters. Besides, the most troublesome thing about organic fusion bodies is that they can fuse infinitely. A true infinite fusion, Cranlisos said with difficulty. A month ago, our ducal palace had a huge battle with the New Age. We won, but it was a terrible victory. All our main forces were killed, 60 in total. I was originally a second-string member, following teacher. I was still on probation, but after my teacher died, I was promoted to official combat force. So were my teammates. No wonder. They were only second-string members. They were just forcefully promoted. Even though their identities had changed, their nature didn't change. They were still second-string members. That New Age is that strong? Cranlisos smiled bitterly. If they weren't strong, they wouldn't have been able to roam around Europe. Isn't that their full strength in Switzerland? No. According to the information we received from the International Supernatural Organization, members of the New Age have been gathering in Switzerland for the past half a month. They're gathering there through various channels. They might be planning a terrorist attack in Switzerland, or they might be searching for something. That's all we know so far. As for their goal, we don't have a clear answer yet. What about the government? Doesn't it care? Our ducal palace is the only weapon the government has. Because of this battle, the ducal palace suffered a great loss. Now, the government has no choice but to seek help from other allies. Isn't Europe the most active region in the supernatural world? Why can't I sense anything at all? Cranleysea shook his head. Switzerland is on the fringes of paranormal activity, and there are only a few countries that are active. Before this incident, the government had been suppressing paranormal activity in the dark. Besides, there are actually a few local paranormal organizations, but because they're not recognized by the government, they have always been small in size. That's why those organizations are secretly gloating over the incident, hoping to see the government make a fool out of themselves. So you're short on manpower now? Are you interested in joining us? Forget about joining, but I'm fine with helping, Jolly Wind said. They lacked information and were completely clueless about the current situation. Moreover, they didn't have the legal authority to act. If they could temporarily borrow the power of the ducal palace and participate in the operation, it would be easier for them to understand the situation and rescue Bjorn. Cranleysea was naturally willing to accept their help. After all, the ducal palace was in dire need of manpower. They already had the intention to rope them in, even though Xiao, He, and Carrie didn't join them directly. At least, they would be happy to help. Do we need to pay attention to anything? Or are there any restrictions? Try to avoid fighting in public to avoid hurting ordinary people. That's the only requirement. Chapter 3029. Sure. Xiaohe and Carrie both nodded. I have some magic equipment. You guys can get one too. We do, Xiaohe said. We're all professionals. We're completely different from the alchemists outside. Also, it's free. All right, since it was free, Xiaohe and Carrie didn't refuse. They followed Cranleysea to the warehouse and each got a set of equipment. Get ready. We're leaving soon. So soon? Didn't you say it's night? Yeah, it's night. But we still have to count the time on the road. Xiaohe and Carrie sat in the back seat while Cranleysea drove. There were 6 cars in front and behind them. Including the 2 of them, there were 21 people. What's this ring for? It's a magic storage ring. It can replenish your mana after you use it. You'll be able to recover in 20 minutes. I have one too. Can I use 2 at the same time? Carrie asked as she took out a golden ring. Cranleysea glanced at it through the rearview mirror and almost forgot to step on the gas. How did you get a golden scale dragon ring? Is this thing called a golden scale dragon ring? You don't know? This is the first time I've heard of it. Xiaohe, have you heard of it? It's the first time I've heard of it. I have too, Xiaohe said. How is that possible? Where did you get it? I got it from an evil spirit. What? No, nothing. They couldn't possibly say that they were trapped in a dungeon and struggled in that dungeon for almost a month. Carrie continued to rummage through the bag and found another pendant. What's this for? Pendant of Spirit Explosion. It can increase your magic damage by around 10%. It's useless. What about this? Power of Illusion. It can transform into the shape of any weapon you want, but it consumes a lot of mana. What about this? Holy Water. It can remove most curses. What about this? Antidote. What about this? Unyielding Strength. It can increase your magic resistance and powerlessness resistance. Carrie was a little disappointed. Although the magic tools in the bag were free, they were not enough. Although the magic items in the bag were free, they overlapped with her own equipment and potions. Moreover, they were all weakened versions of her equipment and potions. Moreover, most of them could not be stacked. In other words, none of these things could be used. Xiaohe was almost the same. She had also obtained a lot of equipment in the instance dungeon. Just his pocket alone was probably stuffed with a few rings. There were still a lot of magic concoctions in the small bag hanging on his waist. The car stopped on the outskirts of their destination. Everyone began to check their equipment. Then, He approached his destination on foot. Not long after, more than 20 people came to a cave in the forest. There were a few people outside the cave. They were all armed gunmen. Both Carrie and Xiao He noticed that all of them had a sarcoma on their arms. Just like Bayan. The two of them looked at each other. Is Bayan here too? At this time, Cranlisi said in a low voice, "Follow me later. Use ranged magic when I attack. We can't give them time to react. If they activate the parasites, we'll be in trouble. Get ready. Aren't you going to use ranged magic?" "Instantaneous," Carrie said. In fact, Yuan Wu was ready to strike. "You have enough time to prepare a more powerful spell," Cranlisi said. In her opinion, channeling spells were definitely more powerful than instantaneous spells. So, she felt that Xiao He and Carrie should choose channeling spells. Both Zhao Liwen and Xiao He felt helpless. They could only cast spells instantly. Perhaps it was because Chun Zhao had taught them. Chun Zhao scoffed at spells that required chanting, especially those that took a long time. So, he kept emphasizing that they did not need to use spells before him. Chun Zhao considered any spell that took more than 1 second to charge up as trash. He always said that 1 second was enough for him to whip a corpse 100 times. So, Carrie did not need to charge spells at all. Xiao He could do it, but compared to the instantaneous release of magic, her charged magic was not enough. Forget it. Cranlisi did not have time to argue with them. The others were almost ready and could attack at any time. Attack! In an instant, Xiao He and Carrie moved as well. Xiao He suddenly stood up and grabbed at the two people in the distance. Refined blood explosion. In an instant, the two men were blasted into a bloody mess. Carrie's reaction was not slow either. Yuan Wu burst out instantly. In the blink of an eye, it reached a gunner. With a swipe of its paw, the man flew away. Another swipe, another flying. Finally, another swipe. In less than half a second, all three of them were killed by Yuan Wu. Cranlisi and the others stood rooted to the spot, shock written all over their faces. Was this a joke? The two of them had killed 5 people together. There were only 2 people left. They immediately aimed their guns at Carrie and Xiao He. No nonsense, just shoot. Refined blood explosion. In an instant, the two of them also exploded into flowers. Cranlisi's face was full of disbelief. The two of them had killed all the sentries. Good job, Cranlisi said. She did not expect Xiao He and Carrie to react so quickly. They were even faster than her, the one who gave the orders. It was too easy. It felt like the 8 people were like lambs. They were like tigers. What's next? Enter this cave. This is a new era stronghold. I heard they were researching a new type of organic monster. The others came to clean up the corpses on the ground. The people Xiao He killed did not even have a chance to resist before they were killed by Xiao He. Only those who were killed by Yuan Wu were still intact. These corpses were quite troublesome. If they didn't deal with it properly, it wouldn't be long before the parasites on their arms completely took over their bodies. Then they would turn into organic amalgamations. It was the thing that Xiao He and Zhao Liwen had seen today. Cranlisi reminded them, kill all living things in this cave, be they human or animal. If you don't destroy them within 10 minutes, they will devour the host's body and turn into the thing you saw today. The two of them did not dare to be careless. They carefully followed Cranlisi's crimson. Chapter 30:30. The journey was rather smooth. They didn't encounter any attacks. The infiltration was successful. Everyone was excited. After all, so many people had infiltrated the enemy's base. They could definitely achieve an important strategic goal. But Carrie and Xiao He weren't very happy. Qin Zhao had once said that an infiltration attack was completely different from a head-on battle. In an infiltration attack, there couldn't be more than 2 people or even more than 2 people. It was almost impossible to infiltrate with more than 2 people. If more than 2 people could still infiltrate successfully, it could only mean that the enemy had let them in on purpose. There was a trap waiting for them. Carrie and Xiao He tried to explain what they were thinking. But Cranlisi didn't believe them at all. More accurately, she and the people from the Duke's mansion were immersed in the joy of their successful infiltration. Carrie and Xiaohe already regretted working with them. 20 people had successfully infiltrated? What the hell was this? From the moment they set foot in this place, they had probably already discovered it. Now, the two only planned to go home and get married after this battle. No, to leave the Duke's mansion. The places they had infiltrated were all kinds of pipes of various sizes. Some of the pipes were still leaking air. Carrie and Xiaohe glanced at each other. This was definitely a good place to attack, if the enemy had individuals who were good at concealment. Suddenly, a member of the Duke's mansion screamed without any warning. When everyone turned around, they realized that the person had been dragged above the pipe. It's an organic mutant. Everyone be careful. Both Carrie and Xiao Hector recalled the targeted training they had received. It was this kind of concealment type of enemy. Watch out! Xiaohe suddenly yelled and threw a black substance into the air. It hit an organic mutant that had just popped its head out. The organic mutant was about to attack one of them. Xiaohe's black substance landed on the organic mutant's body, and the organic mutant instantly twisted and fell to the ground. Kill it! Everyone focused their fire, and the organic mutant was blown to pieces. There's another one. Another organic mutant was taken down by Xiaohe. Xiaohe was very good at this. These organic aberrations were very strong and fast, but they were also very fragile. They were like lynxes that had shed their skin. Their bodies were drenched in blood and looked extremely terrifying. They could easily grab an adult, then use their corrosive claws to make the prey lose the ability to resist in an instant, and then drag them into the darkness to tear them apart in less than a second. However, their resistance to attacks was very weak. As long as they could detect or predict their movements in advance, they could be shot down instantly. What Xiaohe practiced was a magic art passed down in her family, the blood-refining spell. This spell was both offensive and defensive. In a head-on confrontation, it was extremely lethal. Even if it was a defensive counterattack, he still had a strong ability to control the situation. Xiaohe didn't need to kill them directly. She just needed to discover them in advance and then cast a necrosis spell, and they would temporarily lose their ability to move and fall from their hiding places. Scurvy was a spell that directly created a blood clot inside the enemy's body. It was very effective when the opponent was least expecting it. This was especially true for organic aberrations that had low magic resistance. One shot was enough to render the organic mutant immobile. She didn't need to worry about the rest. The people from the Duke's mansion were more than happy to finish them off. As for how to discover these hidden organic mutants, it was very simple. Zhaowen and Zhaoa shared their senses. Zhaoa had already discovered all the organic mutants nearby. Zhaoa would then inform Zhaowen, and Zhaowen would then share the information with Xiaohe. Of course, Xiaohe's reaction time was still a bit slow due to the information being transmitted 3 times. However, this was enough to deal with these organic mutants. The others also noticed that Xiaohe's reaction time was too sharp. She could almost instantly make the organic mutants fall from their heads as soon as they appeared. By the time they reached the end, they had already eliminated more than 20 organic mutants. All of them were killed by Xiaohe, and then they would finish them off. Xiaohe, you're really amazing. How did you do it? Codelus asked in surprise. They pushed open a hatch, and inside was a circular attic walkway. It looked like a patio, but the top was completely sealed. When they entered in a single file, the hatch behind them suddenly slammed shut. Who? Which one of you closed it? Codelus had a bad feeling about this. Their people would never do something so stupid. At that moment, deformed monsters appeared at the entrance of the circular walkway. Organic mutants, organic fusion mutants, and some other monsters that looked similar yet different. Everyone's expression changed. Not good. This is a trap. Xiaohe and Zhaowen wished they could slap Codelus away. They had already told her about it. She had always refused to accept their argument. They had even reminded Codelus again when they were in the exhaust pipe. It was such an obvious sign, but Codelus still refused to accept it. Now that the trap had been activated, she finally believed it. Wasn't it too late? Fight! Fight! Codelus was trying to rally everyone. However, from her expression, it was clear that she had lost all hope. Just like her, The others had similar expressions of despair. Xiaohe and Zhaowen were standing in a corner. They had set up this time not to fight back recklessly. First, they had to find a blind spot. In a battle with so many people, positioning was very important. They could not trust anyone else, so they could not leave their backs to anyone else. That was why they had to find a blind spot, to ensure that no one would suddenly attack them from above or behind them. The battle was fierce, and the people from the Duke's mansion fell one after another. However, this had nothing to do with Xiaohe and Zhaowen. They had always been at their own pace. As long as they were not ambushed, their side was as stable as a dog. But Buwu had not made his move yet. There was no time for him to act yet. These things looked disgusting and difficult to deal with. In terms of timing, Xiaohe and Zhaowen could easily deal with them, compared to the situation back in the village. The situation here was child's play. If one had to point out the difficulty, it was the people from the Duke's mansion. Codella suddenly turned to look at Xiaohe and Zhaowen. She was shocked to find that there were monster corpses and minced meat in front of Xiaohe and Zhaowen. She was stunned. So strong. They were so strong. That was her first thought. The others could barely deal with a monster with a few people. However, Xiaohe and Zhaowen could deal with several at once. Moreover, they were standing in a corner, which ensured that the number of monsters that could attack them at the same time would not exceed 2 digits. The organic amalgamations that gave the people from the Duke's mansion a headache could not even last one round against them. Chapter 30-31. Jolly Wen, hold on. I need to recover my magic power. All right, Jolly Wen nodded. She had used up a lot of her magic power, but she could still hold on. Xiaohe was about the same as her. She still had some magic power. She was just recovering her magic power in advance to ensure the flow of the battle. There were less than 10 people left in the Duke's mansion. The rest weren't just strong. It was only because they were lucky. But now they were dumbfounded. The number of monsters that Xiaohe and Carrie had killed was more than the total number of monsters that the 20 of them had killed. Not just a lot, but a lot. He was too strong. He was unreasonably strong. For example, the organic fusion body. They had to slow down and put some distance between them before killing them with powerful magic. But for Xiaohe and Jolly Wen, it was just a matter of magic. Codelus was also dumbfounded. Everyone, get to the wall. Retreat to their side. Codelus's mind was much clearer now. He knew that he couldn't interfere with Xiaohe and Jolly Wen's teamwork. If they recklessly interfered with Xiaohe and Jolly Wen's battle, they would become a burden. If they collapsed, the Duke's mansion's forces, including herself, would be doomed. However, there were simply too many monsters. They seemed to have been released from their cages and kept surging out. Codelus had been observing Jolly Wen and Xiaohe. She was worried that they would run out of energy. But what surprised her was that no matter how many monsters came, the two were still able to maintain a high rate of killing. Codelus clearly didn't know that Xiaohe and Jolly Wen could last an entire night in this situation. To them, this was a normal operation. They didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure in this situation. In fact, they suddenly realized how strong they were. This is too troublesome. There's no end to this. Jolly Wen, use your ultimate move. We'll open a path, Xiaohe said. All right. Jolly Wen quickly formed a seal with both hands. Old Lord Taishang, I command you. While chanting the incantation, Jolly Wen sent out a hand seal. Yuan Wu suddenly charged out. The seal landed on Yuan Wu's body. In an instant, Yuan Wu's body turned solid and golden. Everyone looked at Yu Wu's mighty and majestic body in shock. Be careful. Those flesh monsters are highly corrosive even if they're summoned creatures, Cranleese reminded. But Carrie turned a deaf ear to Cranleese's warning. Although Ma Wu's figure was enormous, it was rather agile, and its speed was even swift to the extreme. It leaped over a dozen meters away and tapped its claws on one of the organic fusion beasts. The organic fusion body instantly turned into a gold-like substance, and its body was also frozen. In the end, it turned into golden liquid and never came back to life. Just like that, Yuan Wu tapped a few more times, and a path along the way had already been cleared. Everyone couldn't help but gasp. He was too strong. He was at the legendary level. Cran Lisos stared at Carrie's figure. Is this the top inheritance of China? Compared to the people of the Duke's mansion, it was a completely different concept. Keep up, cried Carrie. The golden Pantheon Wu slammed into the iron door on the other side. The moment he touched the metal door, it turned golden and melted. Everyone hurriedly followed Xiao, He, and Jialiwen. At the exit of the circular tunnel was a long and narrow passageway. There were also a large number of flesh monsters. The golden Pantheon Wu charged forward. No matter what it encountered, it would just charge through. But Cranley C could see that. The golden light on the creature's body was gradually fading. It seemed that it wasn't permanent. Only when the golden light on the Pantheon Wu completely faded did it return to Jia Liwen's side. However, there were still more flesh monsters ahead. All of you back off. Cast a magic barrier on yourselves, Xiao He said. Xiao He also decided to unleash a powerful attack. Fiendish Blood Soul Refinement. Explode. Xiao He first detonated the blood on one of the flesh monsters. Then, that flesh monster exploded, its flesh and blood splattering on the other flesh monsters. A third, a fourth, a fifth, it was like a chain mine had been detonated. Explosions rang out one after another. Xiao He let out a long sigh. These guys are really easy to deal with. They're much easier than the demons and devils we encountered before, Xiao He said in a relaxed manner. Xiao He was not blowing her own trumpet. These flesh monsters were too easy to deal with. Her technique was to convert the blood of the flesh monsters into fiendish blood. This fiendish blood could cause explosions. But generally speaking, it wasn't easy to deal with spiritualists. First of all, spiritualists' magic resistance had already greatly reduced the power of the technique. Moreover, spiritualists would usually cast a magic barrier on themselves first. This caused the power of the spell to drop again and again. But these flesh monsters were man-made. Their magic resistance was very, very low. Not only did the power of Xiao He's technique not decrease, it actually increased. This made Xiao He's chain explosion even more effective. After the first flesh monster exploded, the fiendish blood splattered on the other flesh monsters. The flesh monsters that were caught in the explosion would also self-detonate due to the fiendish blood. After repeating this process for a dozen or so seconds, nearly 100 flesh monsters in the passage had self-detonated. And Xiao He's magic power was pitifully low. Too powerful. Everyone sighed. They had thought that Jia Liwen was already strong enough. But Xiao He's performance wasn't inferior to Jia Liwen at all. But at the end of the passage, flesh monsters began to appear again. Everyone hurriedly followed Xiao He and Jia Liwen's footsteps. The limit that had just appeared was meaningless to Xiao He and Jia Liwen. When they pushed open the door at the end of the passage again, everyone found that there were people here. It was these guys in white coats who were continuously releasing their test subjects. Not good. They're coming. Damn, there's so many organisms. Why can't they stop them? The researcher in the white coat was about to raise his machine gun. But at this moment, the murderous people of the Duke's mansion all glared at the researcher. The researchers decisively put down their guns and cupped their fists. Immediately stop releasing these monsters. If you don't listen, you can go and stay with your test subjects. The researchers immediately stopped the gate. In the surveillance room, they saw that these flesh monsters came out from the single-space compartments. Finally done, Xiao He and Jia Liwen both heaved a long sigh of relief. Find a way out. It's too dangerous to stay here. Chapter 30-32. They had finally escaped safely. They had also captured a few technicians along the way. Although many people had been sacrificed, they were still quite happy. We still have things to do, so we'll be leaving first, Xiao He said, planning to part ways with the Duke's people. Where are you going? I'll arrange a place for you. Thank you, but there's no need. We've already booked a hotel. Then I'll pick you up tomorrow and discuss with you what to do next, Cranley said sincerely. Thank you, but we have our own arrangements. But we have something very important. Carrie finally could not hold it in any longer. She roared, I don't want to team up with you idiots anymore. You've really changed my view of idiots. Are you professionals? Even pigs are more professional than you. Those weak things, apart from being ugly, what's so special about them? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're 100 times weaker than our cockroaches, yet half of you people died. What surprises me the most is that you idiots can still laugh after your comrades died. I don't understand what you're so happy about. Did those dead idiots steal your girlfriends? Or did they sleep with your mother? Fuck. Why would I team up with you? Is there something wrong with my brain? Heavens, you're really not suited to this game of saving the world. Go find a job washing dishes. Only by doing that will you be safe. The people of the Duke's mansion were frightened by Carrie's roar. The louder Carrie's voice, the more unpleasant her words were, the less the people of the Duke's mansion dared to retort. From a certain point of view, Carrie was right. But they were also somewhat indignant. It's not that we're too weak. It's that you're too strong. Someone muttered in a low voice. The people of the Duke's mansion agreed with this statement. That's right. It wasn't that they were too weak. It was simply that Carrie and Xiao were too strong. These two women were ridiculously strong monsters. They had never seen such strong people before. Carrie left in a huff. Xiao was not happy with the strength of the people of the Duke's mansion. However, she did not think that it was necessary for Carrie to shed all pretense of cordiality with them. Carrie, you shouldn't do this. At the very least, it's not the time to fall out with them yet. After all, we still need to rely on them to obtain information. You've made us lose our only source of information. Jia Liwen had been impulsive just now, and she had already vented most of it. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I just couldn't help it. Those guys are simply unreasonable. Did they learn magic in kindergarten? Although it was a bit too much to say that they were from the Duke's mansion. However, as the person involved, Xiao felt that it made sense. Of course, Xiao was much more rational. I think the biggest problem is our teacher. If Mr. Chan can be called a teacher, I think it's because of his oppression. Without his oppression, perhaps we wouldn't have our current strength. Carrie was silent, although she was very unwilling to accept this. But that was the truth. Time and time again, he had narrowly escaped death. That was how they came to be. Now that he thought about it, it seemed like it was all thanks to Chun Zhao. She didn't even want to remember those days. It was precisely because of the beatings and near-death experiences that they had their current strength. After returning to the hotel, the tired two went to sleep early. The next morning, they were woken up by urgent knocks on the door. They opened the door angrily and realized that it was Crandall's. Miss Jia Liwen, Miss Wang, please become our instructor. Huh? The two's anger disappeared instantly. Instead, their faces were filled with question marks. Are you serious? You want us to be an instructor? We're still someone else's students. No, there's no mistake. We are very sincere and serious in inviting the two of you to become instructors of our Duke's mansion. Cranley C. looked at Xiao, he, and Carrie with a serious expression. No, you don't understand. We don't have the qualifications. They didn't think that they had the qualifications, because in Chun Zhao's eyes, they were still as young as babies. It wasn't just him who thought this. The people from the supernatural organization thought so too. The two of them were far from that standard. They felt that they had to at least reach the average standard of the organization to barely be considered an apprentice. Unlike now, when they were still beginners. How could they have the qualifications to teach others? Miss Wang, Miss Jia Liwen, you saw how weak the Duke's residence is. What we did last night was our true strength, the strength of our official members. The official members were indeed forced to do something beyond their abilities. But the previous members weren't that much stronger than them. The previous members had been completely wiped out by the same trap. This meant that even if the previous members were better than them now, they weren't that much stronger. Jia Liwen and Xiao He, on the other hand, were truly powerful. It could be said that the two of them were more powerful than 20 people combined. That was why Jia Liwen had scolded them last night. Not only did they not hate Jia Liwen, but they also felt that she was right. Being 50% stronger would make people jealous. Being 100% stronger would make people admire them. Being 1,000% stronger would only make people believe in them. Now, Jia Liwen and Xiao, he had already made them admire them. They even thought that God had sent them to save them. They couldn't imagine how North America, which was a magical desert, could have these two powerful people. Xiao He could understand. After all, they came from an area with the most supernatural activities. But Jia Liwen was a true American. But when Codella said that Jia Liwen was the heir of a top Chinese inheritance, everyone in the Duke's residence gasped. Otherwise, they couldn't explain why Jia Liwen was so powerful. As long as you two are willing to agree to our request, we can agree to anything. No, we can't be instructors. We still have our own things to do. What do you want to do? We can do it for you. Xiao He and Jia Liwen glanced at each other. They were also hesitant. But if they really agreed, what would they teach? How would they train them? They had been trained by Chun Zhao for 2 months. But how to train others was another matter. They couldn't copy Chun Zhao's training method for the people in the Duke's residence. It wouldn't work at all. They couldn't do it either. More importantly, Chun Zhao could find all kinds of dangers for them to try and beat up because he was strong enough. He could ensure that his enemies would attack at the crucial moment, even though they were dangerous. But they couldn't do it. Chapter 3033. We don't have much time, Xiao He said. We have to leave in a week at most. Even if it's just a week, we need more experience, more useful experience, Cranlisos said. We actually don't have much experience, Xiao He said. This is our first time doing something alone. In the past, it was always that our teacher who took us on missions. It's just dangerous missions after dangerous missions that put us in extreme danger every time. At the same time, we learn to grow. Teach. She didn't know how to do that at all. Neither did Carrie. They could do the same if they wanted to. The key problem was that they could put the newbies in danger. But they couldn't guarantee their safety. In the past, Chun Zhao would bring them or have people from the supernatural organization watch over them. No matter what kind of danger they encountered, as long as it was over the limit, the people watching over them would take care of it. There was nothing the caretakers couldn't solve. Almost all monsters couldn't withstand a single blow from them. It's okay. We can accept any result. If danger can help us grow, then let us face danger. Carrie and Xiao He exchanged glances when they saw how determined Codellis was. We need to discuss. Fine. Crandall's was a bit disappointed. He didn't get a satisfactory answer. After thinking it over, Carrie and Xiao He finally made a decision. They'd agree to Crandall's request. Of course, they'd join the Duke's mansion as temporary instructors. In the next few days, Xiao He and Carrie would be the leaders of every operation. Every member of the operation had to obey their orders without question. That day, Carrie and Xiao He led the people from the Duke's mansion into action. The mission was rather successful. The people from the Duke's mansion were very obedient. Xiao He and Carrie had already proven their qualifications with their strength. The only problem was that the people who claimed to be the most professional in dealing with supernatural incidents were simply too weak. Their problem wasn't just being weak. They also fought without any strategy. They didn't have any teamwork either. Xiao He and Carrie's teamwork had been honed in actual combat. Now, not only had they grown together, but they'd also reached the level of telepathy. They didn't need to communicate. When facing a monster, they could instantly understand each other's intentions and what to do next. On the other hand, the people from the Duke's mansion were not only weak, but they also often blocked the path of their companions' magic attacks. This was simply suicidal behavior. Not only would he be committing suicide, but he could also kill his teammates. If a teammate was accidentally injured, it was very likely that they would lose the opportunity to attack. In the end, the enemy took the opportunity to counterattack. In the end, Carrie and Xiao He had no choice but to step in and resolve those troubles. To be precise, it was not a problem at all. To the two of them, the enemy was weak. The people from the Duke's mansion had the ability to solve this problem. But the mistakes piled up again and again. They had completely lost the chance to turn the tables. Hello, Mr. Chun, are you resting now? I don't know what time it is over there, but I'm having lunch right now. Qin Zhao was surprised that Jiaowen called him. Carrie rarely took the initiative to call him, unless he was in trouble. Are you in trouble? It's not really troublesome, Carrie said hesitantly. Then it's troublesome. Tell me, what kind of trouble are you in? It was obvious that something that could make Carrie hesitate had to be troublesome. It's like this. We're in Switzerland right now. We wanted to find a local supernatural organization to cooperate with, but we ended up becoming the organization's instructors, temporary instructors. All right, there are too many things to complain about in your words. Allow me to reorganize my thoughts. All right, continue. This Duke's mansion is very weak. Unbelievably weak. How strange. You actually have the right to say that others are weak. Carrie said. She wasn't angry. She wasn't angry. They can even hire me and Xiao He as instructors, so it's not strange that they're weak. Okay, that makes sense, Chun Zhao said. So what's your problem now? They're too weak. I wanted to use your method, but Xiao He and I realized that we can't control the danger. Strength, cooperation, and experience are all problems. To be honest, I doubt whether these people are combatants or not. How about this? You and Xiao He will split up first and each take a few people with you. Let them integrate into your cooperation and let them cooperate with you. Don't have a battle training every day. Find a few small tasks and keep them busy all day long. But I don't have that much time. I have my own things to do. That's your problem. You and Xiao He promised them, so you should take responsibility. Mr. Chun, how about you give me a few days? No, we agreed on 15 days, so it has to be 15 days. If you don't come back in 15 days, I'll go find you. After hanging up, Jia Liwen smashed the phone on the floor. Over the past few days, the Supernatural Organization had been in charge of the selection for the Youth Supernatural Fighting Competition. Even though they'd relaxed the requirements, they still had to eliminate some unqualified participants. The contestants were also of all shapes and sizes, and there were all kinds of weird and messy things. Chun Zhao went to watch the selection a few times and felt a headache coming on. For example, there was a young man who knew how to control spirits. In order to participate in the competition, he went to catch a powerful evil spirit. Then, in front of the three interviewers, West, Jalanash, and Hallies, the evil spirit went out of control. It really went out of control. It turned out that the young man hadn't really caught it or controlled it at all. He'd used a vessel to temporarily seal the evil spirit's movements, and then used a method that he thought was feasible to cast some ritualistic magic on the evil spirit. He thought that he controlled it. In the end, the evil spirit attacked the young man as soon as it broke free. If not for the interviewers, in any other private place, the young man would be dead. The young man would definitely die. It was possible to control an evil spirit that was far stronger than him. It was possible. Technique, luck, and a number of attempts were all important. Some ritualistic magic couldn't be done on the first try. It required many attempts. The stronger the evil spirit, the more it was like this. Of course, this was only one of the accidents, not the only one. Chapter 30-34. Every contestant's interview wasn't short. It wasn't just a simple job interview. If the contestants made any mistakes during the interview, they might die in the ring. It was very likely that he would die in the arena. They were already prepared to die. No one could guarantee absolute safety in such a competition, but they had to avoid it as much as possible. Every contestant's interview took at least 2 hours. Some even took longer. After almost 10 days, they finally gathered 200 contestants for the preliminary round. The first round was survival of the fittest. First, the 200 contestants would be placed in one area, and then some danger would be created. Then, they would have to fight against the external dangers while fighting among themselves. Most of the contestants would be eliminated, and only 64 contestants would be left. Then, the competition was very simple. There were no points or revival matches. It was just an elimination match. The winner would advance, and the loser would be eliminated. West, I've already set up the first round of survival of the fittest. 2,000 evil spirits, 200 magical beasts, and 1 beast king. It's all up to you now. It took Chun Zhao a lot of effort to kill so many evil spirits and magical beasts. He had to go to the serpent world to capture them. The evil spirits were even more troublesome. Chun Zhao had to destroy 3 evil spirit nests to gather 1,000 evil spirits. As for the Beast King, it was the easiest. It was at the early stage of the disaster stage, so it wasn't difficult. At the same time, he had to place a special mark in the bodies of the evil spirits and magical beasts. That way, after the contestants killed them, they could use it as proof. Guild leader, how about this? Each of these participants must eliminate 20 evil spirits and 3 demonic beasts, as well as 3 other participants' tokens. Only then can they advance to the next level. Alternatively, they can directly defeat the Beast King and advance by 2 levels. Moreover, the number of promotion slots is limited to 64. Once the promotion slots are filled, no matter how many evil spirits and demonic beasts the participants kill, they will not be able to advance to the next level. Sure, Chen Zhao nodded. As long as the rules are reasonable, I won't comment on the details. Chen Zhao basically didn't make any decisions. He only provided suggestions. When do you plan on starting officially? The day after tomorrow, Wes said. But we still need the president to monitor the entire area. We need to avoid casualties as much as possible. Fine. I'll be in charge of the first survival of the fittest. Only Chen Zhao's small world could cover this area. If they were to use monitoring equipment, there would be too many people in charge of monitoring. Even if everyone from the supernatural organization joined in, they probably wouldn't have enough people. Another method was to divide the entire area into smaller areas and assign people to monitor each area. This method still had a huge hidden danger, and it was not safe. In the end, Chen Zhao was the only one who had to suffer. The safest way to monitor them was to cover the entire area with a small world. Just then, Chen Zhao heard the boy's angry shout from outside. "Liar! You liar! You're all liars!" Therma shouted angrily. "I'm here to learn alchemy, not to work for you." Chen Zhao walked out and saw Therma, Ruan's new disciple, arguing with Ruan Faxpen. "No, Therma, I think you're mistaken. Studying is only secondary. Your real role is to be my assistant," Ruan said calmly. "And why do you think the alchemy books you read are free? Those alchemy books will have to be repaid through your work." Seeing Chen Zhao arrive, Therma immediately ran up to him. "Mr. Chen, you're the president," Therma said indignantly. "You should give me justice. I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. You won't get justice here." Chen Zhao smiled at Therma. "You're all liars." Therma was even more furious. "I'm leaving." "Fine, I'll give you a day off, but you better come on time tomorrow," Ruan said. "No, I won't come again. I won't be exploited by you anymore." Chen Zhao and Ruan Faxpen both laughed. "Don't forget that you signed a magic contract," Ruan said. "I think you should read the terms before you sign it next time, instead of complaining that you were tricked. There's a clause in the contract. You're responsible for teaching me alchemy, and I only need to learn. It didn't say that I have to do hard labor. Didn't I teach you an alchemy spell the first day you came? Essence extraction. I didn't break the contract. But in the next few days, you kept asking me to use essence extraction to extract the essence of magic materials. Yes, your effort in extracting the essence of magic materials earned you alchemy books as a reward. See, it's fair." Therma was a bit confused. He covered his head and shouted, "Hold on. Let me organize my thoughts. What you said is wrong. This clause says that I can obtain alchemy, and alchemy books are also a way for me to obtain them. Thus, I should be obtaining alchemy books for free, not paying for them." Ruan shook his head. "I taught you alchemy, so I've already fulfilled my duty. I never said that you could obtain alchemy through any means." "Okay," Chen Zhao said. "How about this? For every magic material you extract, I'll give you $100. If you make a standard magic tool, you'll get $1,000. You're exploiting me. I'm still underage." Therma yelled in agitation. "Think about it. You can extract at least 100 magic materials a day. After you get used to it, how many standard magic tools can you make? 20 or 30? This means that you can earn more in a day than your father earns in half a year." Therma wanted to say something, but Chen Zhao said, "You only have one chance. You can answer my question now. Accept or reject. Think about it. If you work harder, you can earn more than $1 million a month. What does that mean? Damran, who I once chose, can't even earn that much in a year, Ruan said. Also, you'll never be the only choice. Your mother's treatment and your unborn sister's condition will require you to provide them with better conditions. Okay, I agree, Therma quickly said. Chapter 30-35. Therma didn't expect to earn so much money so quickly. In fact, if he was more hardworking, he could even earn his dad's annual income in a day. With the money, there would be no problems. What bullying? What exploitation? None of that existed, all right? Chun Zhao and Ruan Fassabin were very satisfied with this result. In fact, that was their original plan. They'd let him suffer a little first, and then give him some benefits. If Therma could really refine magic materials or make magic tools 24 hours a day, they would only earn more. In that case, they would only make more money. You're not the only choice. This was a sharp weapon for Therma. As long as he wanted to earn money, he couldn't leave the supernatural organization and Ruan Fassabin. Do you want me to take you home? Chun Zhao stopped the car before Therma. Sir, if my parents see me being sent back by a sports car, they will send me to the colorectal department to see if I've been penetrated by some pervert. They will also investigate my situation at school. Okay, Chun Zhao said. I'll take you to the bus stop near your home. Get in. Therma still got in. To be honest, he was quite envious of Chun Zhao's car. Last time Chun Zhao came, Therma had sneaked to the parking lot and tried to use his alchemy to break the lock on Chun Zhao's supercar. It triggered an alarm. Chun Zhao was kind enough to deduct a week's salary. Can I drive it for a second? No. Chun Zhao rejected Therma. Chun Zhao rejected Therma, who was in the passenger seat. It's illegal to drive underage. I don't want the police to confiscate my car and then give me a huge fine. Therma nodded. Boring. With your identity, you don't have to worry about the police at all. No, that's my problem, not yours. You can say you're not worried. Chun Zhao's attitude was firm. Why would I let you drive my supercar? Which stop? The one in front is good. It's just a few steps from my home. It saves me from taking a bus. Done. Chun Zhao stopped the car and looked at Therma's backpack. Also, I need to tell you that you can make magic tools at home, but don't let your parents know. If they do, it'll be very troublesome. You might even lose your job. I understand. Therma's heart tightened. Losing a job means that the family income will go back to what it used to be. His father needed to work overtime every day, and his father was a firefighter. Working overtime meant that he had to face more dangerous situations. Also, his mother's health had not been very good, and she needed a large sum of money for treatment. Also, she was pregnant with his sister. That was why Therma needed the money even more to ease the financial pressure on her family. No, it wasn't just relieving the financial pressure. He could totally change his family into a better environment. It seemed that he needed to be more careful. The possibility of losing his job made Therma feel a sense of danger. As soon as Therma got out of the car, she saw a young man surrounding her. The young man in the lead had green hair. The green-haired young man put a hand on Therma's shoulder. Hey, buddy, what's in your backpack? Can you let me have a look? Who are you? What are you doing? It's nothing. I just lost something, and I think it might be in your backpack. Suddenly, a large hand grabbed Greenhead from behind. Little friend, don't bully my employees here. The group of young people turned around and looked at Chun Zhao unkindly. Asian, you've offended the wrong person. Chun Zhao caught Greenhead's incoming fist. Everyone was stunned. They thought that Greenhead would punch Chun Zhao to the ground. But Chun Zhao caught it easily. You're too weak. Chun Zhao crushed Greenhead's fist and then grabbed his wrist. Inch by inch, Chun Zhao crushed Greenhead's bones. In the end, Chun Zhao threw Greenhead before his companions. You can leave now. I think he might miss the college entrance exams. Good luck. These young people were here to participate in the competition. But Chun Zhao did not expect them to be so uncultured. He dared to attack Therma in front of so many people. This was no different from daylight robbery. The young people did not dare to stay any longer. Holding Greenhead, they ran away dejectedly. Mr. Chun, you're really scary. Therma felt that Chun Zhao had gone too far. You should be glad that it happened in front of me. Otherwise, you'll be taken to some corner and they'll steal the magic materials worth more than $3 million from your bag. Then they'll be afraid that the owners of these things will find trouble with them, and they'll kill you. How is that possible? They don't look like... Therma could not help but feel scared. Huh, they wouldn't do something like that. What if I said that green head killed at least 3 people? What would you think? Thermo was silent. After a few seconds, he raised his head and asked, Mr. Chun, I think I need to learn some spells to protect myself. No need. You just need to use your strengths, and you'll get more protection. This is more meaningful than learning offensive spells. As long as your alchemy skills are high enough, you'll be very safe. No one will dare to offend you. Is that so? Because you can bring benefits just like me. If you bring benefits to me, then I need to do my best to ensure your safety. Similarly, if you lose your value one day, then you will be discarded by me like trash. Fine. What a terrible thing to say. Please be more tactful next time. Okay, go back. Next time, before you bring magic materials back, make an aura-isolating backpack first. Don't carry a huge pile of magic materials on the street. Mr. Chun, aren't you afraid that I'll sell these materials and keep them for myself? Ha! If you sell them, you'll only get 1/3 of the price at most, but you'll put yourself and your family in danger. Don't challenge other people's bottom line. It's dangerous. Plus, with your young face, maybe you won't get any money and they'll just take advantage of you. So, there's a huge difference between taking risks and being honest. You probably won't be that stupid, but if you do your job honestly, you'll be able to obtain money in a safer way. The long-term benefits will definitely be more than betraying me. So if you have some sense, you won't do this. Unless Therma planned to run away. Chun Zhao was not worried that he would sell the supernatural organization's things. Chapter 30-36. 3 days later, Chun Zhao arrived at the venue. 200 contestants had already gathered there. Before these young people, they were full of arrogance and arrogance. Perhaps most of them thought that they were the best in the world. Before they were tormented by real nightmares. Before they met a monster that could destroy their willpower. They were still proud young people. West stood on the podium and said into the microphone, "Silence, silence." West's words didn't seem to have much effect. Perhaps to most people, West was just an incompetent old man who was in the right place at the right time. West was very unhappy. He reached out and snapped his fingers. The halo of slowness enveloped the entire venue. In an instant, everyone felt that their movements, voices, and even their thoughts were slowing down. What happened to you? It's too strange, this feeling. If anyone speaks again, you'll be in this slow state for a long time to come. Other than when you're in bed, this state won't bring you any benefits most of the time. With that, West removed the halo of slowness. This time, no one dared to speak again. No one dared to underestimate West anymore. Very good. You're smart kids, West said. West said, "The forest behind me will be the stage for your first performance. There are countless evil spirits and magical beasts hibernating in the forest. You need to kill at least 20 evil spirits and 3 magical beasts. The evil spirits and magical beasts all have their corresponding number plates in their bodies. After you kill them, you need to collect their number plates. These will be proof of your advancement. Or, the number plates of the 3 contestants will also allow you to advance. In the deepest part of this forest, there is another Beast King. If you have the confidence to defeat that Beast King, you can skip 2 rounds of the competition and directly enter the January 16th elimination round. Also, in the first round of the Survival of the Fittest Fortress, there are a total of 64 places to advance. In other words, once the 64 places are filled, you will only be qualified to advance if you defeat the Beast King. The rest of you will be eliminated no matter what your results are. Therefore, when you obtain the results to advance to the next round, please advance to the next round immediately instead of delaying for better results. Also, in the first round of Survival of the Fittest, you can attack other contestants, but you can't kill them. Otherwise, you'll be severely punished. West had given a warning, but some contestants still didn't care. They clearly didn't take West's warning seriously. Just then, 3 contestants floated up without any warning. "Ah, what's going on? Who did it? Put me down. Put me down, *Shoal. I want to report someone. Someone attacked me. The necks of the three contestants suddenly cracked as they were forcefully twisted and thrown in front of the contestants. There was an uproar. Everyone looked at the three contestants in disbelief. This is a warning. The person watching you has a very special magic. He can monitor every corner of this forest. Even if you pee in a dark corner, you won't be able to escape his surveillance. So, if you want to do something unclean, you better think about the consequences. As for killing, the most serious consequence is that you'll be killed by the person watching you. Just like you won't even be able to find out who the person watching you is. Then, your necks will be broken. Of course, you can also find out the ability of the person watching you. If you can avoid his surveillance, I can consider you as having passed the first round of the trial. All right, now everyone, come and collect your number plate and equipment. In the next few days, you'll be spending your time in this forest. The contestants scattered after entering the forest. At the start of the trial, no one planned to interact with each other. Only a small number of people knew each other or were companions gathered together. Two figures walked slowly in the dense forest. The figures of these two people were of opposite ends of the spectrum. One was short and fat like a ball, while the other was extremely sturdy like a raging bull. Osha, did you see the ability of your mysterious watcher? The muscular young man asked. He was a druid from the Society of Nature from Texas, Quehadil. No, it's a very strange ability. Moreover, the precision of his control is also extremely high. The other short and fat Osha was also a druid of the Society of Nature. Osha walked and ate as he walked. He opened the bottle cap and drank a mouthful of Coke. Burp. Maybe it's puppet magic, but we better not challenge his authority. After all, I don't want to use my own body to try and understand his magic. That's definitely not fun. I'd like to try and see if his magic can break the neck of a dragon. Quehadil was a very special druid. He was a druid of the giant dragon and had the bloodline of the dragon clan. So, he could also transform into a dragon. It was an extraordinary transformation. He was different from other spiritualists with dragon blood. Usually, spiritualists with dragon blood could transform into a dragon after activating their bloodline. Quehadil had 3 dragon forms: dragon form, dragonman form, and giant dragon form. Each of the 3 forms had their own advantages. The dragon beast form lost all of its magical attack abilities and became a pure physical attack. Moreover, it was absolutely violent. Compared to the dragon race of the same age, it had more overwhelming power. The dragonoid form was a humanoid form with the characteristics of the dragonoid race. It possessed powerful magic attacks, but was slightly inferior in both physical and magical defense. Giant dragon form was the easiest to understand. It was a regular dragon form. Osha wasn't as aggressive as Quehadil. He was more interested in food. I just hope to level up as soon as possible. The supernatural organization isn't as weak as people say. I heard that none of the evil spiritualists who came to ever left in one piece. There was no exception. The supernatural organization has hidden power. So what? If they had enough power, they wouldn't have to be low-key. Plus, I don't think anyone in this competition can threaten me. Okay, you're the strongest, but there are still many variables in this trial. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.